Part 9. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 81. Call out. Call out. Call out. Call out. At this moment, a rapid burst of wind sounded. It was the sound of something rapidly rubbing the air. From the darkness, countless feather arrows shot out from the woods. The tips of the arrows shone with cold light, like meteors piercing the sky, shooting towards Xiaowaji. The feather arrow flew extremely fast, and Xiaowaji was already in front of him when he discovered it. The moment he heard the sound, Xiaowaji reacted instinctively. The lightning god walked and deployed. Xiaowaji turned into a bolt of lightning and soared into the sky, dodging all the arrows. Several arrows flew past Xiaowaji's cheek, and Xiaowaji could clearly see the arrow clusters. The arrow clusters are triangular in shape with sharp tips and 3 bleeding grooves on each of the 3 edges. Moreover, there is a small mechanism set up on this triangular arrow cluster. As long as it hits the target, a barb will pop out from the tail end of the triangular arrow cluster, hooking tightly to the target's flesh and blood. Once you are hit by this kind of arrow cluster, you can only dig out the entire piece of flesh and blood if you want to take it out. Otherwise, you cannot stop the bleeding and you will eventually bleed out and die. Chi-breaking light feather arrow. Xiaowaji recognized the origin of this arrow at a glance. This is an arrow specially used by the elite troops of the Great Zhou dynasty. It is extremely powerful and can easily penetrate the body, protecting Qi of innate masters. Paired with the Zhulianu, hundreds of arrows can be fired at once. It can even penetrate the body, protecting Qi of a master. This kind of arrow is a great weapon of the Zhou dynasty to intimidate foreign enemies and martial arts masters. Only the most elite imperial troops are qualified to use it. Although inside the Jinyue, there is also equipment, but you need to apply in advance to use it. Because it is extremely difficult to make chi-breaking light feather arrows and the cost is extremely high. The money to make one chi-breaking light feather arrow is enough to make 50 ordinary feather arrows. He even used the chi-breaking light feather arrow. Li Lin was really crazy to kill me. Xiaowaji immediately guessed that the man behind the scenes was Li Lin. Ordnance is a controlled product, and chi-breaking light feather arrows are a top priority. They are not allowed to be kept privately, let alone privately traded. It is a serious crime to use ordnance without permission. It can range from being dismissed from office and exiled to being beheaded in public. Except for the Li family, no one has the courage to use chi-breaking light feather arrows at will. Call out! Call out! Call out! Call out! Li Lin, you are dead. The successive assassinations sent by Li Lin have completely aroused Xiaowaji's anger. Lightning God walk. Hiss. The full-level lightning god was deployed, and Xiaowaji instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and shot into the woods. At this moment, Xiaowaji's speed was faster than ever before. Those arrows shot through the air. He seemed to be still in front of Xiaowaji. Xiaowaji grabbed all the arrows with his hand and threw them with his backhand. Whoosh! 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 All the arrows were shot back, and the speed was faster than the arrows. The time must be several times faster. With the full-level Dragon Elephant Prajna skill, the power of the Dragon Elephant explodes, just like a giant elephant throwing a cauldron. The moment the sound of breaking wind sounded, a series of shrill screams followed. Just a wave of counterattack, hidden in all the archers in the woods, were wiped out. The chi-breaking light feather arrows shot back not only penetrated their bodies, but even penetrated several big trees behind them, showing how powerful they were. At this moment, another arrow shot back through their bodies. The arrows from one side struck again. Xiaowaji slapped out with his backhand, and Heiran's palm force stopped all the arrows in mid-air. Then he waved his sleeves, and the arrows shot back hit all the remaining archers in the woods. Kill! Xiaowaji turned over and landed on the ground, his sharp eyes staring straight into the depths of the woods. He only heard a crisp burst of applause. Bang! 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 A middle-aged man slowly walked out of the woods, and his eyes were full of surprise when he looked at Xiao Wuji. Unexpectedly, really unexpectedly, Xiao Bei, who at such a young age was already a master at the master level, and at least in the middle stage of the master level. No wonder the useless iron claw flying eagle died in your hands. The middle-aged man carried a long sword on his back, with a plain expression and sharp eyes like an eagle. He looked at Xiao Wuji as if he was looking at a prey. Xiao Wuji noticed that the man's body was covered with a sword intent, which was invisible and without quality. But it really existed. A leaf fell on his shoulder and was split into two out of thin air. Xiao Wuji looked at him expressionlessly and said coldly, Li Lin sent you here. That's right. The middle-aged man nodded and said, who told you to offend people you shouldn't offend? Although I also hate Li Lin, I have to say that power is really powerful sometimes. Xiao Wuji, you are a talent, but it is a pity that you are going to die today. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man drew his sword and came towards him. His sword was very fast, like a meteor flying by. The sword light flashed, and the sword tip came to Xiao Wuji's throat. The sword glow was like a poisonous snake spitting out apricots, trying to choose. The sword clanged and the long sword stopped. No matter how the middle-aged man used his skills, the long sword could not advance any further. Just because Xiao Wuji's two fingers clamped the blade. The middle-aged man felt his sword was sandwiched between two mountains. The terrifying power was many times stronger than his own. And the one who used such huge power was just two fingers. Ling 11 finger. Ling 11 can hold the world's most powerful weapons. With one finger, combined with the divine power of 13 dragons and 13 elephants brought by the full-level dragon elephant Prajna Kung Fu, Xiao Wuji's finger strength reaches an unimaginable level. When it comes to finger strength, Xiao Wuji dares to say that under heaven and man, there is nothing in the world he has few enemies. Realizing Xiao Wuji's strength, the middle-aged man looked horrified and his expression changed drastically. But he reacted quickly, grabbed the hilt of the sword and twisted it, and actually pulled out another dagger from the sword body. His weapons were actually a pair of mother and son swords. The middle-aged man immediately drew his sword and retreated, but would Xiao Wuji let him have his wish? With a flash of lightning, Xiao Wuji had already reached in front of the middle-aged man, and slapped the middle-aged man's head hard with a palm covered with thick real energy. Kong Long has regrets. The roar of the dragon resounded through the dark night, and a long golden dragon rotated and swam in Xiao Wuji's palm. As long as he breathed hard, the golden dragon would fly out of the air and take the enemy's life. Flying swordsmanship. The middle-aged man sensed Xiao Wuji's cold murderous intention and did not dare to hold back. He immediately roared and exploded all the true energy in his body. The powerful true energy broke out of his body and turned into the master's energy. The short sword in his hand divided into two, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, it instantly turned into a sword shadow all over the sky, shooting towards Xiao Wuji. Roar! The golden dragon roared and roared, colliding with the sword shadow all over the sky. Boom, the true energy exploded, and the energy shooting in all directions. Heiran's true energy spreads out, and the surrounding rocks and trees explode. Being swept away by the aftermath of this battle, even the Pekinate masters will be instantly torn into pulp by the force of the sword energy palm. The masters in the early and middle stages of the Grand Master will also be injured. Xiao Wuji, you can't beat me. You can't beat me. The middle-aged man's mouth and nose were bleeding profusely, his face was pale, but he looked like a maniac, roaring and roaring madly. He was at the end of his strength, but he was still holding on. Flying swordsmanship is a unique skill of Fuxianmen, and it is the highest swordsmanship in the world. 9th grade. He didn't believe that it would be cracked by a newcomer like Xiao Wuji 0. But despite all the calculations, he was too weak. Although the flying sword skill was strong, the middle-aged man's internal strength was too weak. What he was facing now was a genuine Grand Master. His domineering palm power ranks among the top among the powerful Grand Masters. How can it be said, can he, a peak Grand Master, compete with him? Boom! Xiao Wuji pressed down with a palm, and the golden dragon immediately defeated all the sword shadows in the sky, and finally hit the middle-aged man's chest, and passed through his chest in an instant. The middle-aged man flew backwards, covered in blood, his vision was dark, his consciousness was blurred, and his vitality was rapidly disappearing. Before he died, the words his master taught him that day rang in his ears again. Yunur, although the flying sword technique is a unique skill of my flying immortal sect, you haven't really mastered its essence. Flying sword, the key lies in the word sword. If a sword has no spirit and no heart, how can it become a flying sword? If you want to truly master the essence of flying swordsmanship and surpass being a master, you must forge a sword heart. Only then will you be able to become a swordsman in the future. If you can't forge the heart of the sword, the peak of Grand Master will be your limit in this life. Before he died, the middle-aged man finally understood what the master's instructions meant. Not everyone can forge a sword heart, and not everyone can be a swordsman. As a swordsman, you must have the skills of a swordsman. Proud. He travels the world with one sword. Even if he is the enemy of the world, he can still kill them with a sword. Without any external objects, a sword heart and a long sword are enough to rule the world. But he joined the Li family and he is a disciple and a slave of others. From the moment he decided to use foreign objects, his heart has been dusted, and there is no possibility of forging a sword heart in this life. Therefore, for so many years, his cultivation has remained at the peak of the master, and his flying sword skills have no more ability. Any progress. Because his way forward has been cut off by his own hands. If you can't forge the heart of the sword, the peak of Grand Master will be your limit in this life. Today, the verses left by the middle-aged man's master came true. He will be a master until his death. Bang! The middle-aged man's last consciousness died, and his body exploded instantly, turning into blood mist and falling in all directions. What kind of broken sword technique? The flashy guy is vulnerable. Are you so arrogant with this little ability? Xiao Wuji turned over and landed on the ground. What kind of fancy flying sword skills in 1.3? It couldn't do anything to him. Li Lin, wait, this is just interest, I will collect the bill soon. Xiao Wuji glanced at the direction of the Li mansion in Jinling City from afar. His eyes were as cold as thousand-year-old ice, bursting out with astonishing murderous intent. After restraining his murderous intent, his eyes were as calm as a lake, but in the lake there is a bloodthirsty demon lurking, baring its fangs and claws, eager for bloodthirsty killing. Whoosh! Xiao Wuji's figure flashed and completely disappeared into the woods. After Xiao Wuji left, about an hour later, a series of rapid footsteps sounded in the woods. The sound. 4 figures jumped out of the darkness and came to the woods. When they saw the messy traces of battles in the woods and the corpses on the ground, the 4 people's faces suddenly changed, and they were inexplicably horrified. No, something happened. Find Mr. Mo quickly. The leader shouted coldly, and the 4 of them spread out to check the grove after the battle. In the end, they found more than 60 corpses shot by chi-breaking light feather arrows, and more than 20 strange corpses, but they could not find any. They are looking for Mr. Mo. Boss, I'm afraid Mr. Mo is in serious danger. A man said in a panic. Nonsense, do you even need to say this? The leader scolded. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 82. Looking at the corpse at his feet, he felt cold and chilled all over. He knew exactly what task Mr. Mo was going to take out today. I never expected that the final result would be like this. The people sent to assassinate Xiaoji were completely destroyed. The little master must be informed of the situation here immediately. Second child, you go back and tell the young master, we will stay here to clean up the scene. The leader ordered to one person. I. The second brother was stunned for a moment when his name was called, and immediately shook his head in panic. I can't do it, boss, you should go back and report the news. Let me do the tiring work of cleaning up corpses. If I tell you to go, just go. Where's all the nonsense? The leader scolded. What, are you going to disobey me? The second child glanced at the other people with an ugly expression, and found that they all had their heads lowered and had turned into turtles. Although the second child was unwilling, he could only bow his head and obey the order. The leader patted the second child on the shoulder, and said seriously, don't worry, you will be fine. If there is an accident, your wife and I will take care of her, and I will never let you have any worries. The corner of the second child's mouth twitched, and he glanced at the leader bitterly, then cursed the others for their lack of loyalty, and turned around without saying a word. The other two breathed a sigh of relief when they saw someone taking the blame. Everyone knows that the little master Li Lin has a bad temper, is moody, and is cruel and murderous. After today's news comes back, Li Lin will definitely be furious. What will Li Lin do when he is so angry? You can guess it with your buttocks. Arrive. 99% of those who go back to report the news will die. Although they can't bear it in their hearts, they can only blame him for his misfortune. The leader said, we and the second brother are sworn brothers, sharing blessings and sharing hardships. If something happens to him, we must not let his family suffer. But the other two people rolled their eyes wildly, twitched the corners of their mouths, and cursed in their hearts. I'm afraid taking care of his new wife is your ultimate goal, right? What a scumbag. As a few people expected, the second brother who went back to spread the news just said after that, he was slapped to death by Li Lin. Trash, they are all a bunch of fucking trash. He also said that he killed Xiaoji within 2 days. Is this how he was killed? The Iron Claw Flying Eagle and the Flying Immortal Sword sect are all trash. Li Lin got furious and overturned the table, spilling the food and wine on the floor. All the servants around him were silent and kneeling on the ground trembling. At the same time, Li Lin's own heart also felt an unprecedented panic. For the first time in his life, he felt that the development of the situation was out of his control. From childhood to adulthood, he relied on the power in his hands to crush countless people to death. Whether they were martial arts masters or court officials, those whom he held a grudge against would die silently. Only Xiaoji escaped from his control again and again. He sent out 3 waves of troops one after another, but all returned in vain, and everyone died. In the end, even his personal bodyguard Mo Yun was sent out this time, but he did not survive. A person dies without a corpse. Although he said that Mo Yun was a waste, he still recognized Mo Yun's strength. Mo Yun once studied in the Wuxian sect and was a top master at the pinnacle level of a grandmaster. His strength was definitely not weak. However, such a master failed to assassinate Xiaoji. How could this not make him fearful? Is it possible that Xiaoji is really Yuan Xiong's illegitimate son? Has Yuan Xiong been secretly protecting him? Li Lin was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He couldn't help but suspect that there was a strong person guarding Xiaoji at all times. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain why so many masters assassinated Xiaoji but all failed in the end. Li Lin didn't believe that those people were killed by Xiaoji. He never believed that there was such a young and powerful master in the world. No, I must tell my father about this and ask him to send a few more masters to protect me. Li Lin was panicked and scared, and quickly went to his father Li Dingshan to complain. At the same time, he was also afraid that Xiao Wuji would retaliate against him. Mo Yun was his strongest guard, and now that Mo Yun's life and death were unknown, Li Lin no longer felt safe. He urgently needs a new and more powerful guard. As the saying goes, the richer and more powerful a person is, the more afraid of death he is. This is true. Li Lin was born with a noble status, and he has wealth and glory at his fingertips. He has not finished enjoying this world yet. The wonderful and prosperous city, I don't want to die young. Time flies by, and half a month has passed before I know it. This half-month was calm and nothing happened. Xiao Wuji went to Bijinfuzi for duty as usual. Every day he played dice with his colleagues for money, or went to Gulan to listen to music, and then caught a few petty thieves, as if he had put Li Lin's assassination on him behind him. Li Lin did not come to trouble him again, everything seemed to be fine. It was very calm and peaceful. In the past half-month, Xiao Wuji had been monitoring outside Li Mansion every night. But for half a month, Li Lin had not walked out of the door of Li Mansion. Yes, since the assassination in the barren mountain of Ghost City that night, Li Lin never went out again, and he never went to Bijinfuzi once. Of course, Li Lin didn't care about this. Even if he didn't go, there would be people who would light the knot for him, and no one would blame him. Watching violence. Have you just turned into a turtle? This is not like you, Li Lin. Come out quickly, come out quickly. The Warren from Wanhua Tower misses you so much that she almost goes crazy. That night, Xiao Wuji was still lurking outside the Li Mansion to monitor as usual. If Xiao Wuji wanted to hide his whereabouts, it would be extremely difficult for others to discover him. When the time came to midnight, the moon had already climbed to its highest altitude. Xiao Wuji still staring at Li Mansion with vigor. I thought that tonight would be in vain again, but unexpectedly, the side door of Li Mansion suddenly opened. Two guards walked out of the side door, glanced left and right on the street, and nodded behind them, indicating that no danger. Li Lin then walked out of Li's house surrounded by more than a dozen guards. He was holding a folding fan in his hand, wearing jade on his waist and a jade crown on his head. He looked like a handsome young man. Xiao Wuji had to admit, Li Lin's appearance is very good. Although he is not as good as him, he can still be considered a handsome man. Li Lin's face was a little impatient. He knocked on the folding fan and growled, "Is it necessary to be so careful? Is it possible that someone really dares to do harm to this young master? That Xiao Wuji is just a small character. Even if he was given 100 courages, he would not dare to take action against this young master." The guard next to him said respectfully, "Young master, be careful and you won't make a big mistake. It's always better to be cautious. This is all what the master has told me, little master, you'd better bear with it." The master is already checking Xiao Wuji's background, but there is still no progress. According to the clues found so far, Xiao Wuji's parents are both dead. Apart from his own martial arts talent, which is suspected to have been inherited by an expert, he has no other background. His current strength should be at the innate peak. With his magical skills, he can barely compete with the Grand Master in the early stage, but it can only go so far. The peak of innateness. Are you kidding me? Li Lin became angry when he heard this. If Xiao Wuji only had this little strength, how could all the people I sent out die? The guard said respectfully, "So the master suspects that there is someone behind Xiao Wuji. Maybe it is the protector left by the master who passed on to him, and his strength must be a great master. As for Yuan Xiong, whom the young master was suspicious of, the suspicion has basically been eliminated." Inherited? Protector? That boy actually has such an opportunity. Li Lin gritted his teeth, with a hint of jealousy on his face. It is not uncommon in the world to be inherited by an expert, and at the same time the expert leaves a guardian to protect the safety of the inheritor. This means that as long as Xiao Wuji grows up, he will be very successful in the future. he may become a peerless master at the Grand Master level. How can Li Lin not be jealous of this? Although his family background is extraordinary, he still envies the Grand Master. Although the Li family has recruited several powerful Grand Masters to protect the safety of the Li mansion, the Grand Master is a distinguished guest of the Li mansion and must be treated with courtesy at all times. Li Wenbo has to donate a large amount of money and training resources every year so that the Grand Master can work for him. And if the Grand Master wants to leave, Li Wenbo, there is nothing to stop it. No matter who it is, no one wants to completely offend a 490 Grand Master. If the Grand Master is determined to kill the Li family, he can do it. Even if he can't, a Grand Master is secretly doing it all the time. Are you afraid that they are staring at you and want to take your life? Just the oppressive feeling of death may drive a person crazy. When Li Lin was a child, he also longed to become a great master in the future, to dominate the world and be invincible. It's a pity that his talent is not good. Even if the Li family has countless talents and treasures, they can't make Li Lin a Grand Master. If you want to break through and become a Grand Master, talent, opportunity, understanding, and basic skills are all indispensable. Come on, little master, the carriage is ready. A guard said respectfully, as long as the young master can recruit those people tonight, wouldn't it be easy to kill Xiao Wuji? Hearing this, a smile appeared on Li Lin's face. You are right, as long as we can succeed tonight, what is a mere Xiao Wuji? Even if he has a protector, send him to hell as well. If you dare to go against this young master, even the Grand Master will never live. Let's go to the pear garden. Li Lin's eyes flashed with cold light, and the murderous intent flashed away. Then, Li Lin got on the carriage, and the guards drove him towards the west of Jinling City. Inherited protector. This Li Lin is really good at association. Xiao Wuji appeared from the darkness. Thinking of the conversation between Li Lin and the guard just now, he couldn't help but laugh at a loss for words. When did he get the inheritance? Where did the guardian come from? He did everything by himself. But Li Lin's words just now made Xiao Wuji more vigilant. Looking at Li Lin's posture tonight, it was obvious that he was recruiting people. Looking at his confident look, it was obvious that the people he was about to recruit were not weak. Otherwise, he would not have the confidence to rely on his strength. Those people killed the Grand Master level guardians. Go check it out. Xiao Wuji's figure swayed, turning into a black shadow and following closely behind the carriage. Xiao Wuji's figure was ethereal, dreamlike, like a ghost, and no one could detect his existence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 83. Li Lin's carriage traveled smoothly all the way, passing through half of Jinling City, and finally arrived at Taiping Fang in the west city of Jinling City. The carriage stopped outside a theater. The name of the theater was Liyuan. Li Lin walked out of the carriage, glanced at the theater, and asked lightly, "Is this here?" "Back to the little master, the place that the man agreed on is right here." The guard next to him responded respectfully. "Okay, got it, let's go in." Li Lin nodded, then looked at the man in black robe next to him and said, "Mr. Mo, I'd like to trouble you later." "No." The hoarse voice came out from under the black robe, which seemed a bit harsh. Li Lin's attitude towards this man in black robe was obviously different from that of other guards, and he actually had some respect. Then, Li Lin walked in surrounded by several guards. Liyuan. This Liyuan was a very prosperous theater a few years ago, but for some reason it was abandoned overnight. The people in the theater died and scattered, leaving only a ruin. Now there is only one ruin in the Liyuan. Broken buildings with doors and windows, ribbons of different colors, and dust on the ground. At first glance, the Liyuan looks like a ghost house. People who are timid would not dare to come here at night. As soon as they stepped into the Liyuan, Lilin and others, people then heard a faint sound of opera singing coming from. The peach blossom fan is afraid that 8 or 9 things in the world will be obscured, and human feelings will cover up 2 or 3 points of shame. White birds are fluttering, green water is surging, some butterflies are flying around the tender yellow flowers, and no one is looking at the new red leaves. No one is seen, the smoke has faded, who can talk about building bullets and hammers? The opera singing is faintly heard, the tone is twisting and turning, and the words are beautiful and round, which is soul-stirring and intoxicating. The moment he heard the singing, Lilin's eyes began to blur, his expression was soothing, and he smiled silly, and then he started dancing on the spot. His dancing posture is very enchanting, and he looks like a dancer in Wanhua Tower. The same goes for the guards next to him. They all seemed to have lost their souls and became crazy and stupid. Snort. The man in black robe behind Lilin suddenly let out a cold snort, which instantly dispersed the opera singing. Lilin woke up from the illusion, suddenly broke out in a cold sweat, and was filled with fear. The guards around him also had expressions on their faces. Pale, sweating profusely. What's wrong? What happened just now? What happened to this young master just now? Lilin was holding onto the wall, his pupils were constricted in fear, and he was breathing heavily, looking very embarrassed. You were invaded by the magic sound just now and fell into an illusion. If I guess correctly, the person who took action was Huidi among the 7 evils of Mobei. The man in black robe has a low voice, a little hoarse, and is very old. Unlike other guards, this man in black does not respect Lilin, but his attitude is a little cold. And Lilin does not dare to be dissatisfied with his cold attitude, but feel that it is natural. He. At this moment, a burst of clear and sweet laughter suddenly sounded. The laughter came from all directions, as if the laughing people were everywhere, and then the sound came faintly. This gentleman is so powerful. He actually cracked the little girl's deception so easily. I wonder who his identity is. Are you willing to take off your black robe and show yourself? The man in black robe glanced around the pear garden, and finally cast his gaze on one of the corners, and said calmly, there is no need to pretend to be a ghost in front of me, just show up. As soon as he finished speaking, a breeze suddenly blew in the pear garden. The ribbons scattered everywhere were floating, like dancing women in the dark night. Several guards looked at the ribbons, their eyes became blurred again, and their faces there was a look of obsession on her face. Then, many ribbons came together, and then slowly flew into the sky. Finally, the ribbons spread out like a goddess scattering flowers, and a beautiful woman appeared from it. She was covered in red clothes, half covered and half covered, alluring. Extremely. Her big eyes are smiling and charming, and the water covers the ground with mist. The corners of her small mouth are slightly raised, and her red lips are slightly open. She is born with a charming nature, and is nothing more than a witch who brings disaster to the water. Even Lilin, who has been looking at the flowers for many years, is at this moment. He was already stunned, staring at the woman with his eyes. The heat and greed in his eyes were unconcealed. Lilin was still like this, let alone the guards behind him. Those guards had now become Brother Pig, his mouth was almost drooling, and he was smiling stupidly. The only one who could maintain his true feelings at this moment was the man shrouded in a black robe. Is the new family beautiful? The woman smiled slightly at Lilin and others, and exhaled like a blue. Beautiful. Lilin and others couldn't help but responded. So do you like me? The woman asked again. Like. Lilin and others replied again. Then are you willing to die for me? The woman asked again. Willing. Lilin and a group of guards nodded involuntarily without any hesitation. The woman laughed, like a naughty little girl, if you are willing, then go die. As soon as she finished speaking, the woman took action brazenly, and it was a killing move, leaving no room for error. The two ribbons shot out of the air under the woman's control, like sharp arrows, quickly passing through the necks of the two guards. The ribbon was released and retracted as fast as lightning. After half a breath, a bloody mark appeared on the necks of the two guards, and then their heads slowly fell off. The sudden change finally woke up Li Lin and others. Li Lin was shocked. Turning pale, he roared angrily, "What do you want to do?" The woman covered her mouth and chuckled. "Didn't you just say you were willing to die for my family? The slave family is now fulfilling your needs. Could it be that you were deceiving the slave family just now? Sure enough, none of the men are good." The woman looks a little sad, like a poor woman who has been abandoned by her lover. She interprets the despair and sorrow so vividly that people can't help but feel affection for them. Even if they know that the woman in front of them is a murderous demon who is playing tricks on them from beginning to end, but Li Lin and others still couldn't get rid of the fantasy in their hearts. They had unknowingly fallen under the charm of a woman, and they were unable to extricate themselves at this moment. Their lives were already in the hands of women. As the laughter sounded, the life-threatening the ribbon fell from the sky again. The guards fled in a hurry, but they could not escape the death sickle, and two more guards fell to the ground. Li Lin hid behind the man in black robe, frightened to death, and trembling. Only the man in black robe next to him could give him his only glimmer of security. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, there was another sound of breaking wind. A black shadow jumped out from the darkness of the attic, quickly grabbed an escaping guard, and dragged him into the depths of darkness. "Zero asking for flowers, Zero." A horrified scream suddenly sounded in the darkness, and then the scream suddenly stopped. Then a corpse was thrown out of the darkness and fell at Li Lin's feet. Li Lin looked at the corpse. There was even more fear in my heart. Because the corpse had turned into a mummy, his skin was as pale as paper and full of wrinkles. There were 2 blood holes on his neck, and all the blood in his body had been sucked dry. Black shadows flew out of the darkness again. Another guard was dragged into the darkness. Li Lin saw clearly this time. The black shadow was actually a huge bat. In less than 2 breaths, another guard was sucked dry of blood and died. The man in black robe did not take action from beginning to end, because these people's murderous intentions were not directed at Li Lin. He would take action only if Li Lin was threatened. As for the other guards, the man in black robe did not care about their life or death at all. In the blink of an eye, Li Lin, the dozen or so guards Lin brought, were all killed by the woman and the weird bat in the darkness. With a whoosh, the vampire bat flew out of the darkness, hung upside down on the beam, and let out a few strange laughs. "Gg, the blood of these people is really unpleasant to drink. It's better to taste this noble young man with tender skin and tender flesh." The eldest grandson of the chief minister of the dynasty has been accustomed to fine food and delicacies since he was a child, so his blood must be very delicious. The strange man stared at Li Lin with red eyes, grinned ferociously, and exposed his fangs full of blood, which made Li Lin's scalp numb. The woman also smiled charmingly at the side. "Master Li, didn't you just say you were willing to do it for the slave family? Go to hell? Why don't you die?" As she spoke, the woman looked sad, her eyes rolling in her sockets. "Are you deceiving the slave family? What a shameless, stinky man." But this time Li Lin was not deceived by the woman. The fear in his heart overwhelmed his lustful heart. "Who are you? Why do this? Do you know who I am? I am Li Lin, the grandson of the chief minister of the current dynasty. My father is the minister of the Ministry of Personnel. Our Li family has all the power in the world. How dare you offend me? Don't you want your life?" Li Lin yelled fiercely. Even though he was extremely frightened, he still spoke harshly. "Ha ha ha, it seems that Mr. Li hasn't realized his situation yet." The woman covered her mouth and chuckled, and the bat monster also said something ferocious. When Li Lin saw this, he almost peed with fright. He quickly grabbed the man in black robe in front of him and shouted in a panic, "Mr. Meng, go quickly, take me with you. Leave here. I don't want to stay here anymore, I want to leave immediately. Mr. Meng, take me out of here quickly." Li Lin pulled the sleeves of the black-robed man and yelled heartbreakingly. The last sentence was broken directly, which proved that Li Lin was actually afraid at this moment. Since he was born, Li Lin has never experienced such a terrifying thing. Desperate situation. If he stayed in this poor place for one more second, he thought he would die. At this moment, Li Lin regretted coming to the Liyuan. But at this moment, the man in black robe finally spoke, "Calm down, I have here, no one can touch you. They're the ones you're looking for tonight. It's them." Li Lin was stunned. "Yes, that's them." The man in black robe pointed at the woman in front and said she is a butterfly, rank 7th among the 7 heroes in Mobei. She is the best at seducing with beauty and killing people with her charm. Although she looks charming on the outside, like an 18-year-old girl, she is actually very old and is old enough to be your mother. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 84. Although she looks charming on the outside, like an 18-year-old girl, she is actually very old and is old enough to be your mother. As soon as these words came out, Huidi's pretty face suddenly became gloomy, and without saying a word, she manipulated the ribbon to kill. No woman can tolerate others saying that she is old. This is the fate of every woman. Especially Huidi. For a woman who relies on charm to kill people, her age is even more of a taboo. Facing the flying ribbon, the man in black robe did not dodge. He just raised his hand and hit it with a palm, breaking the ribbon into pieces. The strength of Hua butterfly, although strong, it was not enough in front of him. Then, the man in black robe looked at the strange bat hanging upside down on the beam, and said, "This man is a vampire bat, ranked 5th among the 7 evils of Mobei, specializing in sucking blood kill. If he doesn't drink blood for a day, his skills will weaken and his appearance will age. This was caused by his excessive practice in the past. Once the backlash occurs, even his own children will drink blood. You must be careful with this person." Li Lin couldn't help but nodded, very honestly. Be careful. Of course he has to be careful. After what happened just now, he would be extremely careful without the man in black robe opening his mouth. The 7 Shahs of Mobei are moody and kill without blinking an eye. Any master of martial arts he has ever seen is more brutal. Li Lin no longer expects the name of the chief assistant eldest grandson to deter these thugs. This is a group of madmen who do things regardless of the consequences, and they will never be afraid of him. Identity. If you really make them angry, they will really dare to kill people. Okay, now that you are here, take me to see the golden-faced Lion King. The man in black robe said calmly, "You didn't ask us here to kill people, right, Hua?" Dai smiled charmingly, her voice clear and sweet. "Is this gentleman really not going to take off his black robe? At least you have to let the slave family see your true face. Otherwise, how can we trust you?" After saying that, the vampire bat jumped down from the beam. He opened his sleeves and robes, just like spreading the wings of 2 bats. The wings flapped slightly, and he came to the man in black robes, raised his hands and clawed them. He faced the man in black robe. The man in black robe snorted coldly, slapped his palm with his backhand, and knocked the vampire bat away. The vampire bat had no power to fight back in front of the man in black robe, and the strength gap between the two was huge. The vampire bat flew back to the beam, with a solemn expression. When he raised his hand, he saw that the palm of his hand was completely black, and he had obviously been poisoned. The vampire bat quickly sealed its major points to prevent the poison from invading its internal organs. 5 poison palms, you are the poison king, old monster Meng. The vampire bat looked at the man in black robe, his voice was surprised, and there was a trace of fear hidden in it. The man in black robe popped out an antidote with his finger, and said calmly, "My 5 poison palms are not so easy to catch, for the sake of the golden-faced Lion King I'll forgive you once. Next time, don't blame me for being ruthless." The vampire bat caught the antidote and took it immediately. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the black air in his palms receding. Then he looked at the man in black robes and said coldly, "I didn't expect that the famous Poison King, Old Monster Man, would actually seek refuge with me." The chief minister of the dynasty became someone else's lackey. If this news spreads, it will definitely make people in the world laugh at it, right? The man in black robe took off his black robe, revealing his true face. His beard and hair were all white, and the skin on his face was as delicate and smooth as a baby. But the skin on his neck was as thin as firewood, without a trace of moisture. The same was true for his hands. Same, skinny as an eagle's talons, completely opposite to the skin on his face. Old Monster Man glanced at the vampire bat and said calmly, "I and Li Wenbo are just doing what they need. I, Old Monster Man, have never been anyone's lackey." "Humph, just continue to deceive yourself." The vampire bat sneered disdainfully. Although there are many warriors in the world who choose to seek refuge with the royal family or court dignitaries for power, status, money, and treasures, the 7 Shahs of Mobei look down on such people the most. They believe that as warriors, you must be proud, free, and unrestrained. You can do whatever you want, and you must not become a vassal of others. If you are short of money, you can grab it. If you are short of cultivation resources, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures, you can also grab it. If you are short of magical skills, secrets, just destroy a few sects, it still counts as robbery. Anyway, grab whatever is missing. What do you want in practicing martial arts? Isn't it just to do whatever you want? The original 7 Shahs of Mobei came together because of the same ambition. The 7 people became sworn brothers to Jinlan. Unfortunately, in order to break through to a higher realm, Iron Claw Flying Eagle finally abandoned its original ambition and chose to join the Li family. Although he was not a dead soldier, his identity on the surface was the guest of the Li family. The remaining 6 people of Mobei Kisha still looked down upon Iron Claw Flying Eagle. Iron Claw Flying Eagle also parted ways with Mobei Kisha because of this. But the 7 of them have been supporting each other for more than 10 years, and they still have feelings. So after learning that after the Iron Claw Flying Eagle was killed, the 6 of them immediately set off and traveled thousands of miles from Mobei to Jinling, just to avenge the Iron Claw Flying Eagle. We both have a common goal, that's why we meet here tonight. Now is it time for me to meet the golden-faced Lion King? Old Monster Man looked at the vampire bat and said. The vampire bat glanced at Old Monster Man, then glanced disdainfully at Li Lin behind Old Monster Man, and said lightly, "Come with me." The vampire bat jumped from the beam and stood side by side with the butterfly. The two walked towards the depths of the pear garden. Old Monster Man and Li Lin followed closely. Li Lin looked left and right, looking at the eerie pear garden, and his hands and feet were frightened. It was cold and his walking movements were very stiff. At this moment, Li Lin just wanted to go back to Li Mansion as soon as possible. He didn't want to stay in this ghost place for a second. Unfortunately, he couldn't leave now. If he left, he would lose HMO opportunities for cooperation with the 7 Shahs of Mobei. In this meeting with the 7 Shahs of Mobei, in addition to killing Xiaowuji, he also received an order from his father Li Dingshan. Li Dingshan asked him to establish contact with the 7 Shahs of Mobei to see if he could kill the 7 Shahs of Mobei. He took the evil spirits for his own use. In order to deal with Xiaowuji, Li Lin lost 2 masters and a team of dead soldiers. The loss was too great. If the remaining 7 evils of Mobei could be conquered, it would not only make up for the lost manpower, but also it can make the Li family's strength further. Compared with killing Xiaoji, recruiting the 7 evils of Mobei is the goal that the Li family wants to achieve most. Following the vampire bats and butterflies, Li Lin and old monster Meng came to the Li Yuan the stage. As soon as he stepped into the door, he heard a sound, and a black shadow shot out from the stage and went straight to the face of old monster Meng. Old monster Meng's expression did not change. He raised his hand and grabbed the black shadow. He grabbed it into his hand without shaking it at all. With a squeeze, the thing in his palm was crushed into pieces by old monster Meng. Old monster Meng looked at the stage with an expressionless face and said, "Not long ago, this is how the Lion King greeted an old friend. This is not the way to treat guests." A dull laugh burst out from the stage, whether it was joy or anger. "Ha ha ha, we and you, old monster Meng, are not old friends. Besides, what I, the 7 Shahs of Mobei, despise most are the lackeys of powerful people, and everyone in the world knows this." The person who spoke was a middle-aged man with an unusually tall build, a head full of yellow hair that fell loosely around his shoulders. His eyes were gleaming green, and his face was as golden as paper, full of vicissitudes of life. He was holding a huge handle. The machete was inserted into the ground, and just sitting there, there was a strong sense of oppression rushing towards my face, as majestic as a god or general. This man is the boss of the 7 evils of Mobei, known as the golden-faced Lion King in the world. A few years ago he is already a peerless master at the Grand Master level. On the left and right sides of the golden-faced Lion King, there are 3 people standing. On the left is a middle-aged man, as tall as the Lion King, in his 40s, wearing grey. The old cloth robe is slightly tattered. This man has thick eyebrows and big eyes, a high nose and a wide mouth. He has a square face with a weathered look. He looks very powerful when looking at him. After old monster Meng and Li Lin appeared, this man people's eyes have never left the two of them. Their bright eyes are staring at old monster Meng and Li Lin, just like a tiger staring at 2 prey. Once there is an opportunity, it will pounce on them and bite them. Broken into pieces. He is the black-hearted tiger, ranked 2nd among the 7 evils of Mobei. His strength is second only to the golden-faced Lion King, and he is a master at the pinnacle level of the Grand Master. Standing on the right side of the golden-faced Lion King are a man and a woman. The man was dressed in black, wearing a mask, and wore a pair of bronze claws with wolf fangs on his arms. When he saw Li Lin, his eyes showed a bloodthirsty and sinister green light, and he kept licking his lips, and occasionally made a few weird laughs. This man it is Zixia Lang, ranked 3rd among the 7 evils of Mobei. The last woman, she has long purple hair, which is scattered on the back, and part of it is formed into clouds with 3 silver hairpins. Her eyes are one red and one purple. She has strange eyes, and there is a seductive black spider painted on the corner of her eye, which is extremely charming and evil. The woman wears a purple fishtail dress with a very long hem, exposing her snowy skin on her sides and back, and has a tattoo of a strange spider on her waist. She has a hot and charming figure. Compared with Butterfly, they are not inferior at all. These two are both naturally charming and seductive witches, but they have their own styles. Seeing this woman, Li Lin began to feel swaying again. He had to admit that although these women scary, but really beautiful and alluring. The woman seemed to have noticed 3.4 Li Lin's fiery gaze, and smiled charmingly at Li Lin, her eyes like water, which made Li Lin's heart beat wildly. But the next second, Li Lin's eyes showed fear, and he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, trembling. Because he saw a colorful spider crawling around on the woman's hand. Li Lin knew that colorful spider, it was the Black Widow, which is highly poisonous. It is said that the venom can instantly poison the Pekinate master, and even the master dare not touch it easily. This woman dared to put the Black Widow spider in her hand and play with it. It can be seen that like the flower butterfly, it is also a person not to be trifled with. Woman. The person's name is the same as spider, also called Black Widow, ranking 6th among the 7 evils of Mobei. The Black Widow and the Butterfly are also known as the Poisonous Twins. They are notorious in the world and scare countless people in the world. In the past 10 years, countless martial arts masters have coveted the beauty of the two of them, and in the end they all died in despair and misery. In addition to the vampire bats and butterflies that appeared at the beginning, all the people from the 7 evils of Mobei have arrived. The dead iron claw flying eagle ranks 4th among the 7 evils of Mobei, but he is the oldest among the 7 evils of Mobei. It's a pity that when you go out to travel in the world, you only talk about your strength and not your age. Although Iron Claw Flying Eagle is old, his strength is only ranked 4th. Martial Arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 85. Compared to the other 6, Iron Claw Flying Eagle's potential has almost been exhausted, and it is almost impossible to make any breakthroughs. This is also the reason why Iron Claw Flying Eagle abandons its sworn ambition and joins the Li family. Because only the first assistant Li Wenbo can make him take a further step. Okay, let's get down to business. The golden-faced Lion King looked at old monster Meng and Li Lin and asked, "Who killed my 4th brother?" As soon as these words came out, the other 5 Mobei 7 evils all turned their attention to old monster Meng and Li Lin. Old monster Meng didn't think anything was wrong, but Li Lin was almost scared to death. Being stared at by such a group of lawless masters. The pressure was so great that he was so frightened that he couldn't speak. Old monster Meng glanced at Li Lin with disdain and said, "The one who killed the iron-clawed eagle was a Jinyai Wei who named Xiao Wuji." As soon as these words came out, Black Heart Tiger, Blue Wolf King and Vampire Bat all laughed. Black Widow and Butterfly also covered their mouths and chuckled. The face of the golden-faced Lion King instantly darkened, and he burst out, "There was a murderous intention, old monster Meng, are you kidding me? Or do you think I am very free and am wasting time with you here? The Iron Claw Flying Eagle was killed by a Jinyi guard Beihu. This is simply a fantasy. Everyone knows that the Jinyi Wei Beihu is only at the innate level, and the strongest is only the innate peak. It can barely match the early stage of the Grandmaster. And the Iron Claw Flying Eagle, but how could a genuine mid-level master be killed by a small family?" As soon as old monster Meng said these words, the golden-faced Lion King became furious and immediately wanted to kill someone. The terrifying murderous aura started from Jin. The masked Lion King erupted and swept inside and outside the troop in an instant. Faced with the Lion King's murderous oppression, old monster Meng remained calm and said, "Don't underestimate the Xiao Wuji. Although his own strength is not something to be afraid of, but the person behind him should not be underestimated." "The person behind it? Does he have a big origin?" the golden-faced Lion King asked in surprise. Old monster Meng explained, "Xiao Wuji has been inherited by a certain master. Almost all the martial arts he has practiced are 8th level magical skills, and he is protected secretly by a guardian. The iron-clawed eagle was killed by the secret guardian. According to our guess, the protector behind Xiao Wuji is a genuine Grand Master, and his strength may not be weaker than that of the Lion King." When they heard that Xiao Wuji possesses several 8th grade magical arts, the eyes of Mobei Kisha and others suddenly became hot. 8th grade magical arts are extremely rare, and getting one of them can greatly improve their strength. If they can succeed, their Mobei Kishas, the strength can definitely be improved. But when they heard that there was a protector behind Xiao Wuji, the faces of several people suddenly became serious. They all knew the meaning of a protector. There was a protector behind Xiao Wuji, which proved that a big force was interested in Xiao Wuji's talent has already cultivated him as an heir. This kind of heir is not easy to mess with. Once provoked, it will stir up a hornet's nest. Let's not talk about whether they can defeat the Guardian and kill Xiao Wuji. Even if they can succeed, they will be killed by Xiao Wuji. The big forces behind him are chasing after him. At that time, there will be no way to go to heaven and no way to enter the earth. Although the power of the Mobei Kisha is not small, there is still a gap between it and the real top sect. If killing Xiaowuji caused any seclusion, for many years of old monsters, one can imagine their fate. But the seven evils of Mobei are sworn friends to Jinlan, and they share the same spirit. The Iron Claw Flying Eagle died because of Xiaowuji, and they cannot remain indifferent. This revenge must be avenged. So, at present, they have no choice. Xiaowuji must kill him. As for the protector behind Xiaowuji, although the Mobei Kisha are jealous, they are not afraid. After all, there are 6 of them, while the opponent only has 1. The Mobei Kisha, the 6 evil people, join forces, and even if the opponent is a midterm or even late-stage Grand Master, they can still fight 1 or 2. The most important thing is, after killing Xiaowuji and the Guardian, what should they do? The escape route must be found in advance. Just while the discussion between the 7 Shahs of Mobei and old monster men was in full swing, none of them noticed that there was always a pair of eyes staring at them secretly. It was really lively. Everyone who was supposed to come was here. Xiaowuji is hiding in the dark. Every word, deed, and move of the 7 Shahs of Mobei and old monster men has not escaped his eyes. In addition to Li Lin, who must kill, another group of Xiaowuji's enemies have also arrived. Xiaowuji, after killing the Iron Claw Flying Eagle, he naturally forged a deadly feud with the other 6 Mobei 7 evils, and the 2 sides would have a battle sooner or later. I thought it would take some time before meeting them, but I didn't expect that they had already arrived in Jinling and were still fighting with Li Lin came together. This was really hard to find, and it took no effort to get here. Tonight, I followed Li Lin to the Liyuan, and the harvest was really great. At the same time, the electronic sound of the system also rang. Ding, the host triggers a mission: eradicate the weeds. The host killed the iron-clawed flying eagle and formed a deadly feud with the 7 evils of Mobei. The 2 sides have an everlasting relationship. It is detected that the 7 evils of Mobei have murderous intentions towards the host. Please ask the host to kill all the 7 evils of Mobei and eradicate the roots. Mission reward: kill God with 1 strike at full level. Listening to the system prompts in his mind, Xiaowuji's eyes lit up and he was a little excited. The god of death slashed with 1 sword, coming from the world's #1 world. It is a peerless sword technique that can kill with 1 strike. At that moment, Xiaowuji suppressed the murderous intention in his heart, staring at the 7 Shahs of Mobei and old monster men. There were too many enemies gathered here, so Xiaowuji had to be careful. He didn't want to capsize the boat in the ditch and lose his life in vain. Under the stage, Meng, seeing that the golden-faced Lion King and others were silent, the old weirdo suddenly smiled and said, "If you are in trouble, I can give you some guidance." If the big sects behind Xiaowuji really dare to come to the door, Li Shaofu will definitely come forward. When Li Lin heard this, he jumped out excitedly. Mr. Meng is right, even the top sect in the world and the holy land of martial arts must give my Li family some face. They will never dare to embarrass me. Hero. As long as you are willing, I, the Li family, will never treat you badly. Glory, wealth, power, status, magical secrets, and miraculous elixirs are all here to satisfy you. This is the ultimate purpose of Li Lin coming here tonight. Isn't it just for this moment that he is frightened and pays such a high price? As long as he can recruit the 6 people in front of them were all worth the suffering they had suffered before. Black-hearted Tiger, Zixia Lang, and others all looked at the golden-faced Lion King, waiting for his answer. The 7 evil spirits of Mobei are like brothers, and they are as close as brothers. Everyone discusses everything. But when it comes to big things, you must listen to the golden-faced Lion King. The golden-faced Lion King looked at old monster Meng and Li Lin with cold eyes, and sneered, "Avenging my 4th brother is fake. Is your real purpose to let us take refuge in Li Wenbo and act like cows and horses? Don't think about this, it's absolutely impossible." The golden-faced Lion King's tone suddenly changed, full of coldness. I, the 7 Shahs of Mobei, have always been unrestrained, and I will never be someone else's lackey. With that said, the golden-faced Lion King looked at Li Lin and said coldly, boy, go back and tell Li Wenbo. He wants to recruit me, the 7 Shahs of Mobei, which is just a fool's errand. As soon as the golden-faced Lion King said these words, Li Lin was furious. But he didn't dare to let it out. The 6 people in front of him were all ruthless people who killed without blinking an eye. Once they were angered, old monster Meng alone would kill them. People may not be able to protect him. Old monster Meng looked at the golden-faced Lion King and sighed. The Lion King really doesn't think about it anymore. The golden-faced Lion King snorted coldly, don't mention this matter. Old monster Meng shook his head helplessly, that's such a pity. The golden-faced Lion King replied, I, the 7 Shahs of Mobei, have my own pride and will never become a lackey of power. The 4th child just went the wrong way, so he was killed. We will not follow in his footsteps. As for Xiao Wuji, we will deal with him. If the big sect behind him really sends people, I, the 7 Shahs of Mobei, will not be afraid. Life or death, each depends on his own means. In this case, we have nothing more to say. Old monster Meng sighed, turned around and wanted to leave. But Li Lin was a little unwilling. Mr. Meng, are we leaving like this? Old monster Meng looked at him calmly and said calmly, then what else do you want? How about you try to persuade them again and see if they can succeed? Li Lin wilts. Persuade. Persuade. Who dares to persuade these ruthless people? I'm afraid he will die if he goes up. Although he is unwilling to give up, Li Lin has no choice but to give up. 040 But the 7 Shahs of Mobei having decided to kill Xiao Wuji, it gave Li Lin some comfort. At least the thorn in Xiao Wuji's side would be dead soon. At the moment when old monster Meng and Li Lin turned around, Xiao Wuji, who was hiding in the dark, had his eyes clear. Flash. The opportunity has come. Hai La, the electric light flashed, blooming from the darkness like thunder, shooting at the old monster Meng at a speed that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. The electric light came without any warning, so neither the 7 Shahs of Mobei nor the old monster Meng noticed it. By the time they noticed it, it was already too late. The murderous aura erupted by Xiao Wuji had already enveloped the entire stage and inside. When old monster Meng saw the electric light coming towards him, he instinctively boosted his luck and developed a 3-foot wall of energy to defend himself. His own body. But before Meng Laoyi's 3-foot chi wall was fully activated, Xiao Wuji's killing move had already landed on his back. Kong Long has regrets. The domineering palm force instantly defeated the unformed 3-foot wall of chi in old monster Meng, and Heiran's internal energy broke into the body, directly destroying the internal organs. Old monster Meng flew out upside down, and there was a crackling sound in the body, and the bones were broken. I know how many were broken, and the meridians were broken inch by inch. A mouthful of blood spurted out to the sky, and old monster Meng's face instantly turned pale as paper, and his breath was extremely depressed. You, actually, plot. Old monster Meng stared at Xiao Wuji with wide eyes, wanting to say something else. Unfortunately, before he finished speaking, his head tilted and he died completely. Until his death, old monster Meng's eyes were still open, full of endless unwillingness and hatred. Xiao Wuji turned over and landed on the ground, sneering, what about secret plots? What about overt plots? All dead people are the same, so why bother about how they died? Xiao Wuji used 10% of his strength in this palm. The overbearing palm power of the full-level dragon elephant Prajna Kung Fu, combined with Kong Long Yagui, the most powerful of the 18 dragon subduing palms, is so powerful that it is indescribable. In addition, the sneak attack caught old monster Meng off guard and was naturally unable to stop him. With just one palm, he killed old monster Meng. This famous Poison King never expected that he would end up like this until his death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 86. Xiao Wuji chose Old Monster Meng as his first target after careful consideration. There are 7 people in total, including Old Monster Meng and the 7 evils of Mobei. The 2 greatest threats to Xiao Wuji are undoubtedly Old Monster Meng and the Golden-Faced Lion King, the 2 great masters. Of the 2, Old Monster Meng is undoubtedly the greater threat because he is good at using poison. Xiao Wuji's only weakness now is his inability to prevent poison. Although I had taken the 5th grade detoxifying elixir Jade Heart pill beforehand, it was still not safe. It would be safest to kill Old Monster Meng. Xiao Wuji. The sudden turn of events shocked everyone present. The 7 evils of Mobei all looked like they were facing a formidable enemy. They took up their postures to face Xiao Wuji, ready to take action at any time. Li Lin, the weakest, was even more frightened when he saw Xiao Wuji appear. His legs felt weak and he sat down on the ground, his crotch soaked all over. Li Lin, who had been the emperor's darling since birth, looked as embarrassed as a wild dog on the roadside. Xiao Wuji, why are you here? When he saw Xiao Wuji's cold eyes, Li Lin was so frightened that he knelt down and begged for mercy. No, don't kill me, you can't kill me. My father is Li Dingshan, and my grandfather is the chief minister of the dynasty. If you dare to kill me, they won't let you go. I won't go against you anymore, let's shake hands and make peace. I can give you money, glory, wealth, martial arts secrets, whatever you want. Facing death, Li Lin showed unprecedented humility. Xiao Wuji looked at Li Lin with cold eyes, and without saying a word, he slapped him into blood mist. I dare not kill you. Am I afraid of your father? Don't kill him. Are you kidding? As for his father and his grandfather, Xiao Wuji never cared about them from the beginning. If you are afraid of this and that, why are you still in the world? Why don't you go home early and sell sweet potatoes? Ding, it was detected that the host successfully killed Li Lin, completed the task of paying blood for blood, and obtained the full level of 9 Yang magic. Do you want to receive the reward? The electronic sound of the system sounded in Xiao Wuji's mind. Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level of 9 Yang magic. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. A powerful internal force suddenly appeared from the danshan and flowed to Xiao Wuji's limbs and bones. Under the initiation of the system, in just an instant, Xiao Wuji achieved the perfection of the 9 Yang divine art. The original inner energy of Xiao Wuji's body instantly transformed into 9 Yang true qi. Not only did the amount of true qi expand a bit, it also became purer. Xiao Wuji's internal skill realm also broke through again, reaching the peak state of the Grand Master. Previously, Xiao Wuji's internal skill cultivation level had always been great. At the late stage of Grand Master, I finally broke through to the peak of Grand Master at this moment. Zhuyang Shengong integrates the mysteries of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, integrates the essence of the 3 religions, and combines hardness and softness. It is the best secret book of internal strength in the world. After practicing it, after the 9 Yang divine art, the internal force can be generated at an extremely fast speed and is endless. Ordinary fists and kicks can also use great attack power, and the defense power is unmatched. It can even automatically protect the body and reflect external attacks, making it an indestructible body. In addition, after cultivating the 9 Yang divine art, the Qinggong body skills can also surpass all the masters of Qinggong in the world. It is also a holy scripture of healing, invulnerable to all poisons, and is specialized in restraining all the cold and negative internal forces in the world. After cultivating the nine-yang divine art, Xiao Wuji no longer afraid of the poison in the world. After spitting out a breath of turbid air, Xiao Wu felt extremely relaxed, and there was an indescribable pleasure in his body. But in the eyes of the Mobei Kisha, the threat was even greater. The six of them were all discerning. The vicious man could see at a glance that Xiao Wuji's strength was extremely terrifying. Especially the death of Old Monster Meng shocked the hearts of the six people. Old Monster Meng, the Poison King, had been in the world for more than 30 years. He knew how to kill with his 5-poison palm. How many powerful enemies have been killed, and his reputation is even higher than that of the golden-faced Lion King. No one expected that the Poison King, who was still alive and kicking 1 second, would be killed by a sneak attack the next second. Although it was a sneak attack, Xiao Wuji showed his Qinggong movement and palm power are not empty. Even if they are face to face, Poison King may not be Xiao Wuji's opponent. You are Xiao Wuji. The golden-faced Lion King spoke first. A pair of lion eyes stared closely at Xiao Wuji. As long as Xiao Wuji made the slightest move, he would take action immediately. It seems that Old Monster Meng and the Li family have underestimated you. You have no protector behind you. You killed my 4th brother with your own hands. Yes, that's me. Xiao Wuji put one hand behind his back and said calmly with no expression on his face. The weak and the strong prey on the rivers and lakes, and those who kill will always be killed. He came to assassinate me and was killed by me. I can only say that he brought the blame on himself and no one else. If you want to blame him for being with the wrong master. Shut up, no matter what Fei Ying is, he is still our brother, it is not your turn to kill him. The vampire bat took a step forward, a cold murderous aura erupted from his body, and a smell of blood hit his face. Zixia Wolf also took a step forward and said the 7 evils of Mobei are sworn brothers to Jinlan, and they are connected with the same spirit. You kill the flying eagle, you have to pay the price. Xiao Wuji, tonight either you die or we die, the hatred of friends is irreconcilable. This is a black-hearted tiger. What a pity for a handsome young man. If it were normal times, my sister might still love you. But tonight, you will definitely die. This is the flower butterfly. At this moment, the flower butterfly's face is no longer half charming, but only has a cold killing intent. I will use the Black Widow's poison to send you on the road and bury you with the flying eagle. This is the Black Widow, and her voice is colder than the butterfly. The golden-faced Lion King suddenly pulled out the machete and put it on his shoulder. He walked to the front and pointed the knife directly at Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji, suffer death. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden-faced Lion King came to kill him with a knife. He jumped high from the stage, held the knife in both hands and slashed from top to bottom, using split Huashan Mountain with one move. This is the most basic sword technique, but it is also the most powerful. Because this sword combines the powerful internal power of the golden-faced Lion King, it can be said to be able to defeat all techniques with one force. There was a loud bang, and a sword technique 30 meters of huge sword energy burst out of the air. The powerful true energy turned into 20 or 30 male lions roaring up to the sky, and together with the sword energy, they trampled down towards Xiao Wuji. The momentum was like an overwhelming wave, which seemed to be able to destroy everything. Well done, the dragon has regrets. Facing the attack of the killing move, Xiao Wuji did not retreat but advanced. His left foot was slightly bent, his palms rang together, his hands made a circle and then pushed out together. Nine Yang's true energy suddenly turned into a golden dragon, roared out, and it was the descending move. The arrogant dragon has regrets in the 18 palms of the dragon. The golden dragon rose into the sky, roared, rushed into the lions, and met the sword energy head-on. There was a loud bang, and 20 or 30 true lions came together. They all let out a mournful cry, and then exploded. Even the huge sword energy of more than 30 meters was defeated by the golden dragon. The killing move was broken, and the golden-faced Lion King was hit by the true energy, and stepped back more than 10 steps, every step. A footprint several inches deep was left on the ground. There was a puff, and a trace of blood spurted out from the corner of his mouth. "Boss. How are you, boss?" When Blackheart Tiger, Wuxia Lang, and others saw the golden-faced Lion King injured and defeated, their expressions suddenly changed and they couldn't help but exclaimed. They all knew the strength of the golden-faced Lion King. He was a genuine Grand Master, but they didn't want to. He was at a disadvantage in just one move. Although Xiao Wuji looked young, his strength was terrifying. The golden-faced Lion King used his luck and barely stopped his retreat, and said in a deep voice, "Be careful, this person's palm, his strength is unparalleled and his internal strength is profound. He is still above me. You must not be careless." As soon as the Lion King finished speaking, Xiao Wuji had already charged towards him. When the full-level lightning god was deployed, Xiao Wuji was like a lightning meteor, which was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. The flying dragon is in the sky. Xiao Wuji came to the sky above the Black Widow's head, and struck out a golden dragon with a condescending palm, heading straight for the Black Widow. The persimmon has to be picked on the soft side. This Black Widow is closest to him and the weakest. Who else will he kill if he doesn't kill her? Even her. She was a woman, and she was extremely beautiful, but Xiao Wuji did not hesitate to kill her. Beauty was like a pink skull in Xiao Wuji's eyes. Xiao Wuji's speed was so fast that the 6 of them had no time to react. When they saw Xiao Wuji coming out move, it was too late to dodge. Black Widow's face was pale, and there was fear in her eyes, but she could only grit her teeth and fight hard. The true energy broke through the body and turned into Gangqi, both palms came out, and the true energy broke through the air to form a huge spider. But the golden dragon tore the spider into pieces with one bite. The dragon didn't rest, and passed through the Black Widow's body. With a bang, the Black Widow exploded, turning into blood mist and flying everywhere. Sixth sister! Sixth sister! Seeing the Black Widow being killed, the black-hearted tiger, Wuxia wolf, vampire bat, and others were all stunned, and they all roared and came towards Xiao Wuji. The golden-faced Lion King was even more furious, roaring towards the sky and performing the roaring technique. Roar! The roar of a wild lion. The invisible sound wave merges with the powerful real energy to become the most powerful sonic killing move, which attacks Xiao Wuji directly in front of Xiao Wuji. But Xiao Wuji has the 9 Yang divine art to protect his body and is not afraid of the lion's roar at all. That is enough to crack mountains and crack rocks. The sound wave skill hit Xiao Wuji, like a breeze blowing on his face. Xiao Wuji ignored the lion's roar skill of the golden-faced Lion King, tapped his foot lightly, and turned into a bolt of lightning to kill the 3 charging black-hearted tigers, purple rosy wolves and vampire bats. Human. The vampire bat's Jinggong is the fastest, so he was the first to get close to Xiao Wuji, but he also died the fastest. The vampire bat opened its bloody mouth and bit Xiao Wuji's neck, with 4 sharp fangs in its mouth. It exuded a strong smell of blood, Wang Zhao's. Xiao Wuji glanced at him with disgust, and then struck Long Zaishan with his backhand, hitting the vampire bat on the cheek. With a bang, the vampire bat's head exploded, only the headless body was left unable to fall. At this point, the Mobei Kisha killed 2 people. At this moment, the Black-Heart Tiger and the Wuxia Wolf's killing moves came hand in hand. It was the old Kiwa Butterfly, who was performing mind-bewitching tricks on the side. Taking the Black Widow's lesson into account, Huadai didn't dare to get close to Xiao Wuji at all. He only dared to stay far away and used his mental trick to help the Black-Heart Tiger and the Wuxia Wolf body. The Black-Heart Tiger transformed into a fierce tiger, and the majestic true energy transformed into a fierce tiger. Xiang Xiao Wuji, the tiger claws went straight to Xiao Wuji's chest. Wuxia Wolf's claws came out at the same time, and the wolf's bronze claws went straight to Xiao Wuji's neck. With just one claw, Xiao Wuji's heavenly spirit cover could be lifted. Facing Xiao Wuji's head, several people surrounded and killed him, but Xiao Wuji advanced instead of retreating. He shot out two giant dragons with both palms. They were the two dragons fetching water from the 18 dragon subduing palms. The two dragons roared and hit the Black Heart Tiger and Wuxia wolf. One tiger and one wolf. Without holding on for half a breath, Xiao Wuji broke through the killing move and the body protecting chi with the palm. The two of them flew out at the same time. The weaker Wuxia wolf didn't even let out a scream, and his body exploded directly. It turned into a blood mist that filled the sky. The black-hearted tiger managed to save his physical body, but when he was flying in the air, blood spurted from his mouth and nose, and his body was twisted and his muscles were broken. He died before he even hit the ground. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 87. Compared with Wuxia wolf and vampire bat, Black Heart Tiger only managed to save the whole body. So far, 4 of the 7 evils of Mobei have been killed. Only the last golden masked Lion King and the butterfly hiding aside were left. Scanned by Xiao Wuji's indifferent eyes, Huidi's face was as pale as paper, and she was so frightened that she hid behind the golden-faced Lion King. The golden-faced Lion King stared at Xiao Wuji, his eyes were cold and murderous, and he wanted to tear Xiao Wuji into pieces. Dead, his brothers and sisters are all dead. The 7 of them are sworn brothers and have been together for more than 10 years. Although they are not biological brothers, their relationship is closer than biological brothers. In the past 10 years, they have not encountered strong enemies. But they all worked together to get through it, and no one died. But today, it is in Xiao Wuji's hands. He watched helplessly as Xiao Wuji killed his 4 brothers and sisters. Including the iron-clawed eagle, there are 5. The golden-faced Lion King has never hated someone so much, and Xiao Wuji was the first one. It is not an exaggeration to say that I wish I could eat its flesh and sleep on its skin. Looking at the corpse of the black-hearted tiger, the golden-faced Lion King felt a little regretful. He regretted that he rushed to Jinling with his brothers without investigating Xiao Wuji's strength in advance. He even hated those 2 losers, Old Monster Meng and Li Lin, the Poison King, for not even knowing they were being followed. If they hadn't brought Xiao Wuji here, would his brothers and sisters have died tragically? It's a pity that it's too late to regret now. Kame, I'll hold him back later, you go first. The golden-faced Lion King whispered to Huidi, and immediately stepped forward with a knife. Huidi said, "Brother, if you want to leave, let's go together." Xiao Wuji shouted coldly, "None of you can escape, you will all die here tonight. Dragon Elephant Prajna Kung Fu." Xiao Wuji roared, and the 940 true energy surrounding his body suddenly gathered into one, forming a giant dragon and a giant elephant. The giant dragon roared, and the giant elephant raised its trunk and trampled, and finally turned into a huge palm, heading towards the golden-faced Lion King was photographed heavily. The full-level Dragon Elephant Prajna Kung Fu contains the divine power of 13 dragons and 13 elephants. Its power cannot be described in words. The giant palm moved forward, and wherever it touched, the ground exploded, and roars came and went. The true energy oscillated and formed. Ripples in the void visible to the naked eye rushed towards the golden-faced Lion King and the butterfly. Seventh sister, go quickly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Wuji's killing move came, and the golden-faced Lion King's heart exploded. He quickly grabbed the butterfly on the side and threw it away with all his strength. At the same time, he waved the sword with both hands and slashed down angrily against the giant palm. The huge sword energy turned into a giant. The true essence lion opened its bloody mouth towards the giant palm and roared. Although the 7 Shahs of Mobei killed countless people, their friendship with each other was real. Even in the face of death, they did not abandon their brothers. Jin, the face-faced Lion King, knew that he was bound to die, and he also wanted to send his seventh sister Huadi away before he died. He did not want all the 7 evil spirits of Mobei to be buried here today. Boom! Between the lightning and flint, the giant palm hit the lion and defeated it directly. Then the giant, the golden-faced Lion King, was hit with his palm and flew away. The golden-faced Lion King was flying in the air and vomited blood. He felt severe pain all over his body and all his bones were broken. The true energy in his body was constantly overflowing, proving that his Danshan had also been destroyed. Broken. But when the Lion King caught a glimpse of the butterflies escaping crazily into the distance, he felt a little comfort. As long as the butterflies could successfully escape, their Mobei 7 Shas would not be completely wiped out. However, how could Xiao Wuji let the tiger return to the mountain? Kill and silence. It is Xiao Wuji's usual style to cut the grass and root out. I saw a flash of lightning, and the head of the fleeing butterfly suddenly rose into the sky. The body continued to move forward for a certain distance under the influence of inertia. This is a golden mask, the last scene the Lion King saw before he died. The original comfort turned into unwillingness, endless resentment, and deep regret. He regretted coming to Jinling and bringing all the brothers to this tomb. They shouldn't have come. It was that one thought that led to the destruction of the entire army of the 7 evils of Mobei. With a pop, the body of the golden-faced Lion King fell to the ground, making no more noise. His unique weapon, the machete, spun and fell from the sky, and was inserted right next to his head, sinking 3 feet into the ground. At this point, the entire army of the 7 evils of Mobei was destroyed, leaving no one behind. The electronic sound of the system also sounded immediately. Ding! It is detected that the host has successfully killed the 7 evils of Mobei and completed the task of eradicating the weeds. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level killing god / The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. After the system initiation, a huge amount of information instantly poured into Xiao Wuji's mind. Xiao Wuji seemed to see a villain practicing sword skills quickly. Those sword skills were deeply ingrained in his mind, and he could not forget them even if he wanted to. Just one moment, in an instant, Xiao Wuji's understanding of the killing god / has reached the full level. With one slash, the killing god can kill even the gods in the sky with one sword. His sword intention soared into the sky, reaching straight into the sky, even better than before. Call. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Wuji suddenly opened his eyes. There was a sword light passing quickly in his eyes, and it disappeared in an instant. As soon as his mind moved, the powerful sword intention that filled his body was taken back into the body by Xiao Wuji. The sword skills are stronger. Xiao Wuji was extremely satisfied. Later, Xiao Wuji searched the bodies of the golden-faced Lion King, flower butterfly, and black-hearted tiger, and harvested 78,000 to 80,000 taels of silver notes, several bottles of unknown types of elixirs, and several books. Secret books as trophies. Then Xiao Wuji shot the bodies of the golden-faced Lion King and others into blood mist, destroying the corpses and eliminating traces. Just as he was about to leave, Xiao Wuji saw the machete inserted in the ground. The machete was very heavy, so Xiao Wuji pulled it out. When I hold it in my hand after taking it out, it feels like it weighs more than 100 kilograms at least. It cannot be used by people who are not born with supernatural power or deep internal strength. Xiao Wuji flicked the blade and immediately let out there was a melodious sword cry that lingered for a long time. This was no ordinary mountain knife. It was not only sharp but also extremely hard. It was carefully crafted by the golden-faced Lion King and cost a lot of money. It is of high value. Received. Xiao Wuji was in a good mood. He put the machete behind his back and strode away from the Liyuan. As soon as he walked out of the gate of the Liyuan, Xiao Wuji heard a rush of horse hooves. Hearing the sound of horse hooves was not far from him, and he was heading towards the Liyuan. It seems that the movement here was discovered by the city guards who were patrolling at night, and they came to check the situation. Xiao Wuji did not want to expose his traces, so he turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the night. Shortly after Xiao Wuji left, a group of city guards, the soldiers, rushed to the Liyuan. The leader was a general wearing armor and a white tiger head mask. The soldiers behind him were all wearing armor and black tiger head masks. If Xiao Wuji was here, he would definitely recognize this. This army is the White Tiger Legion among the 4 Elephant Legions of Jinling City. Jinling is the imperial city of the Great Zhou dynasty. It is heavily guarded and has extremely strong military capabilities. The strongest is undoubtedly the Imperial Palace Forbidden Army, which is responsible for guarding the palace city and protecting the emperor's safety. And the platoon, the second one, is the 4 Elephant Legion of Jinling City. The 4 Elephant Legion are named after Qinglong, White Tiger, Suzaku, and Suanwu, and each guard the 4 directions of Jinling City. The Liyuan is located in the west city of Jinling City, and is naturally controlled by the White Tiger Legion of the 4 Elephant Legion. Come on, come take a look inside. The general at the head gave an order, and 4 soldiers from the rear army immediately walked out and entered the opera garden to check the situation. Soon the 4 people ran out. One of them respectfully reported, "General, there is no one in the opera garden, but there are some remaining soldiers. Many traces of battle. Has a body been found?" Returning to the general, no body was found, but a lot of residual blood stains were found. No body? Could it be possible that Chengdu escaped? The leading general was suspicious. He rushed over when he heard the noise of the battle, and it didn't take much time in total. The battle ended so quickly? Impossible. There was such a big movement. There must be a master in the fight. A master's hand. The battle usually lasts for a long time, how could it end so quickly? The general couldn't figure out the situation, so he had to dismount his horse and enter the pear garden to check the situation. Entering the pear garden, what he saw was the overturned ground, damaged walls, and there were speckled blood stains scattered in every corner. The pear garden had long been abandoned, and it was originally a ruin. But these traces were obviously new, and the smell of blood lingering in the air was also very strong. Who is fighting here? Is it so powerful? The leading general is very knowledgeable and can initially judge the strength of both sides based on the battle traces. "General, there is a knife mark here." At this moment, a soldier exclaimed. The general turned around and suddenly found a knife mark half a foot deep on the ground. However, this knife mark was only halfway, and stopped abruptly halfway. Proves that the knife was blocked and destroyed. What a strong sword spirit! The general was secretly frightened when he saw it. He saw that the extremely ferocious sword intention was still left on the half mark of the sword. Judging from the sword intention alone, it proved that this man's strength was far superior. Who is fighting here? Who could it be? Could it be that he is a demon from the demon cult? This knife mark can only be left by at least a strong master. The general fell into deep thought. Recently, Jinling City has been in turmoil. Jinyue, Liamen, and Dongchang are all tracking down the traces of the demon cult. A few days ago, the emperor was furious because of this and massacred many civil and military officials. Although these days the Japanese incident has calmed down slightly, but the aftermath has not dissipated. It is not surprising that there are remnants of demon cult demons lurking in Jinling City. Now that such an unidentified sword master suddenly appeared, the general felt like a needle on his back, and felt uneasy in his heart. This is the west of the city. If something happens, it will be the responsibility of the White Tiger Legion, and he cannot escape the blame. "Sir, what level of strong man is this a knife mark left by?" Beside the general, a soldier couldn't help but ask. The other soldiers were also curious. They were not advanced enough to see the depth of the knife marks. The general glanced at him and explained, "At least a great master can leave such a mark." Knife marks. If you can spy out the intention of the sword, your strength will be further improved. Real. As soon as the general said these words, the eyes of many soldiers suddenly lit up and their hearts were filled with heat. The sword intention left by the Grand Master is not common. For low-level warriors, it is already a great opportunity. A soldier can't hold back his heart. Excited, he immediately stepped forward and reached out to touch the knife mark. When the general saw this scene, he roared angrily, "You idiot, get back!" But it was too late. I heard a sudden sound of a sword, like a thunderous explosion, and faintly mixed with the roar of a wild lion. Kang! A domineering sword intent suddenly burst out from the knife mark, sweeping across the surrounding area in an instant. A range of 3 to 4 meters. The soldier who touched the knife mark bore the brunt and was hit head-on by the knife. With a bang, his body exploded and blood and flesh flew everywhere. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 88. The soldier who touched the knife mark bore the brunt and was hit head-on by the knife. With a bang, the body exploded and blood and flesh flew everywhere. Several soldiers around him were also implicated. They were hit by the sword and flew backwards. 4 of them vomited blood and died after falling to the ground, and the rest were also seriously injured. "You are a bunch of idiots, please stay away." The general waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "How can you touch the sword intention left by the Grand Master? If you don't have innate strength, you will die if you encounter him." When many soldiers heard this, they quickly stepped aside. Several soldiers looked at the soldiers who were dismembered with lingering fear, and they were filled with fear. Fortunately, they took a step just now, otherwise they would be the ones who were dismembered. Immediately seal off the opera house and search the surrounding area carefully to see if there are any other findings. If you encounter an enemy, don't fight head-on. The general issued an order in a deep voice. Subordinates obey. Many soldiers responded in unison. Xiao Wuji naturally knew nothing about what happened next. At this moment, he had returned to his home in Zukfang. If Li Lin is killed, the Li family will probably go crazy. But it doesn't matter. The Li family can't find the murderer. Even if they suspect me, I won't be afraid at all. Xiao Wuji is very relaxed and in a calm mood. Today, Xiao Wuji's internal skills have reached the peak of Grand Master, and the 9 Yang Divine skill protects the body from all poisons. He also has the full-level Dragon Elephant Prajna skill, the full-level 18 Dragon Subduing Palms. There are 4 peerless magical skills including the full-level 6 Art of Aohan and the full-level Killing God Slash. Even if Li Wenbo sends out his strongest Grand Master disciple, he may not be Xiao Wuji's opponent. As for the Tianren disciple, he is expected to be just a member of the Li family, can't afford to recruit either. I'm a little hungry. Let's have a late-night snack. Xiao Wuji was in a good mood. He called 2 maids to make a sumptuous midnight snack. He even ate 2 more chicken drumsticks than usual. There was nothing to say all night, and the next day came in a blink of an eye. Xiao Wuji came to Bijin Fuzi as usual. As soon as I entered the door, I saw the Jin Yaiwei in groups, gathering together and whispering, and I didn't know what they were talking about. Did you hear that? In this operation to siege the entrance of the demonic church, those who have made great contributions will be greatly rewarded. I heard that although His Majesty the Emperor Longyan was furious this time due to the rebellion of the demon cult, fortunately our Jin Yaiwei made our contribution in time, so it can be regarded as meritorious and meritless. I heard that both Lai Amenmen and Dongchang were reprimanded by His Majesty, and their subsequent achievements were just outweighing the merits and demerits. This time our Jin Yaiwei stole the show. Who do you think has the greatest credit? I heard that Zhou Beihu's contribution this time is not small. I'm afraid he will be promoted. Alas, Liu Beihu is about to be promoted somewhere. I think Xiao Beihu deserves the most credit. As soon as these words came out, they immediately received unanimous approval from everyone. This is true. Xiao Beihu did have the greatest contribution in this operation. If he hadn't found out the list of undercover agents of the demon cult, we wouldn't have had the chance to make any contribution. This time I really owed Xiao Beihu a big favor. As Xiao Wuji's examination of the list of undercover agents of the demon sect was revealed, many Jinyaiwei finally knew why Xiao Wuji dared to massacre hundreds of households in the Zhenfu division that day. It turned out that those 800 households were all undercover agents who colluded with the demon sect. Many Jinyaiwei shuddered when they thought that the undercover agents of the demon sect were around them. If those undercover agents suddenly rose up and attacked them, would they be alive? Fortunately, Xiao Wuji caught the undercover agents in time, otherwise the consequences would be unpredictable. "Hey, Xiao Beihu, you are here." At this time, someone finally saw Xiao Wuji's arrival and quickly greeted him with a smile. Zhou Beihu, who had a good relationship with Xiao Wuji, smiled and cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, Xiao Beihu, you will definitely be promoted this time." The other Jinyaiwei all handed over their hands and said, "Congratulations if you become successful in the future, don't forget us old friends." Congratulations. Even the hundreds of households who were usually estranged from Xiao Wuji all came forward to congratulate Xiao Wuji, hoping to reconcile the relationship in time. Even if they can't get close in a short time, at least they can become familiar, right? Xiao Wuji responded with a smile. He said, "We are all happy together. Everyone has contributed to the fight against the demon cult this time. I just have better luck. Besides, the order hasn't come down yet, so it's too early for us to talk about promotion. It's better for everyone to keep a low profile." Xiao Wuji said this, and everyone agreed, nodding repeatedly, "Yes, yes, keep a low profile, keep a low profile, too high a profile will have bad effects." At this moment, a member of the Jinyaiwei general banner came from a distance, came to Xiao Wuji and respectfully clasped his fists in salute. "Xiao Beihu, Mr. Qinhu invites you." Xiao Wuji nodded slightly, "I understand." As he said that, he smiled at the surrounding Jinyaiwei and followed the general flag to the 1,000 households office. Many Jinyaiwei hundreds of households looked at Xiao Wuji's retreating back and showed envy. They all knew that Xiao Wuji was now. "I went there as a Beihu, but I came back as a Qinhu." Yes, although there is an adverb for Fuqianhu, it is still Qinhu after all. My subordinate Xiao Wuji meets Lord Qinhu. Xiao Wuji took a step forward, bowed his hands and saluted. "No need to be so polite in the future." Yuan Xiong smiled and looked at Xiao Wuji and said, "In this round of siege against the demonic cult, you led a team to destroy the entrance to a demonic cult, and also found out the list of undercover demonic cult agents. This was your first contribution. His Majesty the Emperor, Long Yan, was greatly pleased to appoint you as the deputy Qinhu of the Imperial Guard. Someone comes." Yuan Xiong gave the order, and a general flag suddenly walked in outside the door. The general flag held a tray in his hand, and in the tray were placed a brand new Fiyu uniform and a pair of Qinhu tokens. "From now on, you are the deputy Qinhu of Jinyaiwei. My subordinate, Xiao Wuji, thank you for your kindness. Long live my emperor." Xiao Wuji bowed his hands to express his gratitude, and raised his hands to take the tray. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and smiled. "In addition to the position of deputy Qinhu, His Majesty also rewarded you with 50,000 taels of silver notes and an 8th grade magical skill. But I think about it, you should not be short of magical skills." Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji with burning eyes. His eyes were a little strange. Xiao Wuji ignored Yuan Xiong's gaze and said without changing his expression, "My subordinates have already inherited it, so they really don't need the 8th grade magic skill. The current martial arts is enough for my subordinates to understand. If they are distracted, it will be harmful rather than helpful." From eavesdropping on Li Lin's conversation, Xiao Wuji already knew that both Li Wenbo and Yuan Xiong suspected that he had been inherited by a certain senior master. In this case, Xiao Wuji simply complied with their wishes and admitted the matter. In this way it also saved a lot of trouble. Xiao Wuji just wanted to say one thing about the Emperor's reward: is it a mere 8th grade magical skill that is very strong? The young master doesn't like it at all. When Yuan Xiong heard Xiao Wuji's admission, he thought as expected, and then said, since you don't need magical secrets, then go to the Sutra Pavilion, secret arsenal, and choose a treasure on your own. Rank 9 or below, you can choose. Yes, I would like to thank you, sir. Xiao Wuji nodded, held the tray and left. Just when Xiao Wuji walked out of the threshold, Yuan Xiong's voice sounded from behind. 0 flowers for 0. Can you tell me where the master who taught you magical skills came from? Yuan Xiong didn't want to ask at first, but when he saw that Xiao Wuji was about to leave, he couldn't help but ask. Senior masters who can teach 8th grade or even 9th grade magic skills at will are at least a peerless master at the Grand Master level. Such the master deserves to be treated with caution by the court. Without asking clearly, Yuan Xiong really can't rest assured. Although he knows that Xiao Wuji is fine, he cannot guarantee that the master who taught Xiao Wuji's magical skills is fine. Maybe Xiao Wuji is just that master. A chess piece to be used. Xiao Wuji stopped, looked back at Yuan Xiong, and said with a smile, I don't know where that expert came from, but he is already dead. I saved that senior by chance. The senior was seriously injured and could not be saved, so he taught me what he had learned before he died. So that's it? Yuan Xiong nodded slightly. Such adventures are not uncommon, and there are many rising stars similar to Xiao Wuji. It can only be said that Xiao Wuji is lucky. He met the right person at the right time. After leaving Kinhu Institute, Xiao Wuji immediately put on a new Kinhu Fi'io suit. He was wearing a brand new Fi'io suit, with a snow-drinking mad sword hanging on his waist. He had a majestic body and a majestic appearance. A pair of eyes shot cold stars, and his eyebrows were as thick as paint. His chest was broad and broad. The body is upright, like a 1,000-year-old cedar, standing proudly in the world. It has a towering demeanor, as if it has an invincible majesty. With just one glance, you can feel the intoxicating style of that invincible top master. Xiao Wuji looked at himself in the bronze mirror, smiled evilly, and then with a thought, he restrained most of the powerful aura in his body. Looking at it now, Xiao Wuji's demeanor was completely different from before. Although he was still majestic, there was less of a sense of sharpness and oppression. After walking out of the room, Shuehua and Song Liman immediately came up to him and saluted respectfully. I see Mr. Kinhu and congratulate Mr. Kinhu on your promotion. This is the art of speaking. No matter whether it is the northern or southern genfuzi, the adverb will be subtracted from the title of Fuqianhu. In addition to sounding better, it also implies that Fuqianhu can be promoted to Kinhu sooner or later. Xiao Wuji looked at the two humanities, said, get up, starting from today, the two of you will be a trial of 100 households. When Shuehua and Song Liman heard this, they were immediately overjoyed. They quickly bowed and bowed 90 degrees, thank you for your cultivation, sir. I will treat you with the same attitude. I will never forget this kindness. It was only by following Xiao Wuji that the two of them were able to rise so quickly. In just a few months, they were promoted from Zioki to trial 100 households. The Jinyai Wei of the same batch as them are still Zioki. Only a few, all of them have been promoted to the general banner, and they all got there by raising money. Unlike Xiao Wuji, he doesn't need them to raise money at all, he will only lead them to make money. As long as Xiao Wuji eats meat, they can drink soup. Make a lot of money. Now walking on the road, when the Jinyi guards from other hundreds of households see Shuehua and Song Liman, who doesn't feel envious and jealous? This is the benefit of following the right Shangguan. Getting promoted and getting rich is like playing. Yes. Who wouldn't want a Shangguan like Xiaowaji? Shuihua and Song Liman would only hug their thighs. Xiaowaji told them to go east, and he told them to go west. After that, Xiaowaji went to the Sutra Pavilion, secret arsenal. The gatekeepers were still the few warriors in golden robes. Seeing Xiaowaji coming in a pair of Kinhu uniforms, he immediately bowed and saluted, "Sir, please see Kinhu Master 3. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system." Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 89. Oh, I see. Xiaowaji showed the deputy Kinhu token and Yuan Xiong's approval document, and walked into the secret arsenal in a swagger. Looking at Xiaowaji's back, several warriors showed envious expressions. They all remembered Xiaowaji, and they had often done so recently. I heard about Xiaowaji's name. I vaguely remember that more than 2 months ago, Xiaowaji just entered the Genfu division, and he was just a general to fill the vacancy of his father. Although he was the general, no one thought highly of him. I didn't expect that he was just a general. In the past 2 months, Xiaowaji has become a deputy Kinhu. And he did not rely on connections and money, but on strength and merit. Xiaowaji is younger than them, but his achievements are already beyond their reach. People are really more deadly than people. Arriving directly to the 8th floor of the secret arsenal, Xiaowaji picked up a treasure catalog and opened it to look through. The sound of flipping through books rang out, waking up the elder who was sleeping nearby. The elder guarding the pavilion reluctantly opened his eyes, looked at Xiaowaji and said, "Young man, can you be quiet? The old man is getting older and will live less in a few days. Every day he sleeps will make him lose a day." When he saw Xiaowaji's Kinhu uniform, the elder's eyes suddenly sobered up, and he said in shock, "Boy, how old are you this year? Already a deputy 1,000 households." Xiaowaji smiled at the elder who guarded the pavilion, and then continued 740, lowering his head and flipping through the book, and said, "Young age does not mean you are weak. What's so strange about being the deputy of Kinhu? After a while, I might already be a Kinhu. So you are very powerful." The elder guarding the pavilion narrowed his eyes slightly, a little disbelieving, and curled his lips and said, "I think you have someone to support you, right? Tell me, which family are you from? Li family? Wang family? Or the Sun family?" Such a young deputy Kinhu is very rare. Elder Shuch has been in the secret arsenal for more than 20 years and has never seen a few in total. Most of them are from the powerful families in the court. Elder Shuj, please, the first time I saw such a young Kinhu was Li Lin from the Li family. Xiaowaji smiled without explaining too much, and there was no need to explain. The elder who kept the pavilion became a little anxious when he saw that Xiaowaji didn't reply. He usually stayed in the secret arsenal, no one talked to him, and he could only sleep when he was bored all day long. Finally, he met a young man who interested him. He wanted to say something to relieve his boredom, but he didn't expect that Xiaowaji was not interested in him at all. Of those hundreds of thousands of households who came in before, who didn't treat him with respect? Even if they asked him for advice, the elders who guarded the pavilion were unwilling to look at them. How could there be anyone like Xiaowaji? "Boy, this is yours. Opportunity. You turn a blind eye to the opportunity before you. If I had some advice, you would be able to make rapid progress in martial arts. You don't know how to seize such an opportunity?" The elder guarding the pavilion was very anxious, but he couldn't get the old face to speak first. I only saw Xiaowaji flipping through the catalogue. It was not 10 lines at a glance, but 1,000 lines at a glance. Finally, the elder guarding the pavilion couldn't help it, and said somewhat depressedly, "Boy, what magic secret book are you looking for? Don't you like all the magical skills here? You must know that this is the 8th floor of the secret arsenal, and all that can be placed here are 8th level magical skills. Any one of them placed in the arena can make countless warriors go crazy, beat them to death, and pile up corpses. The result is that Xiao Wuji didn't look down on any of them. Is this too high a level? Xiao Wuji smiled and said, I'm not looking for martial arts secrets. I just want to find a protective treasure or a powerful hidden weapon. The reason why I was looking for protective treasures was for Su Weiner. Now that Xiao Wuji has offended the Li family, although he himself is not afraid, Su Weiner cannot stop the Li family's revenge. Su Weiner still has gold soft armor to protect her. Insurance, Xiao Wuji wanted to find another powerful weapon to protect her. Protective treasure? Hidden weapon? That's not common. Elder Xiaoji said with a smile. There are many hidden weapons in the world, but there are very few who are qualified to be placed on the 8th floor of the secret arsenal, even less than the 8th grade magical power. Elder Xiaoji laughed and looked at Xiao with a burning gaze. Wuji said nothing, waiting for Xiao Wuji to ask him. However, Xiao Wuji just glanced at the elder who kept the pavilion, also said nothing, and then changed a treasure catalog and read it again. The elder who kept the pavilion was completely dumbfounded. What do you mean? Young man, can't your mind spin? The old man said that treasures are not common, but I know where they are. I don't want to say anything just to let you ask me. You ask. Why don't you ask? You ask, the old man me just said. Why don't young people play their cards according to common sense? The elder guarding the pavilion was very depressed. The clattering sound of turning books made him very irritable. Okay, boy, stop flipping through it, what you want is not in that book. The elder guarding the pavilion said impatiently, took out a book from the upper shelf behind him and threw it into Xiao Wuji's hand. This is what you are looking for. Thank you very much. Xiao Wuji took the book with a smile, and when he opened it, it turned out that all the records recorded were protective treasures and hidden weapons. Golden Jiao armor, it is woven with 5 types of silkworms: golden silkworm, eye silkworm, jade silkworm, blood silkworm, and stone silkworm, combined with the Millennium Mysteria silkworm. Made of iron and extremely primeval stone, it is invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire, invulnerable to the master, and unbreakable unless the master is at the peak. The first item is a rare and hard to find good thing. The golden dragon armor can be called soft gold armor. An upgraded version, it can effectively protect itself after wearing it. Innate level attacks are itchy to it, and even the master's chi can effectively resist the weakening. Only when the attack reaches the peak level of the master can the gold be broken. The defense of the dragon armor. Wearing such a golden dragon armor will greatly increase your advantage when fighting against a grandmaster. However, the golden dragon armor is a dead thing after all, and can only guard the vital points of the body and trunk. And it can only defend but not attack. It is useful for strong masters, but it is useless for Su Weiner who does not understand martial arts. Xiao Wuji continues to read below. The King of Hell posted, the King of Hell wants you to die in the 3rd watch, who dares keep you until the 5th watch? You can break the Grandmaster's aura and kill people in just a moment. Suzaku dance, flying feathers chase souls, and take lives. Contains 72 small blades, which can kill the Grandmaster in an instant. The mother-in-law chases the soul. Life-threatening guts. The river of forgetfulness is difficult to cross. Ruthless silk. Everything is a good thing. It can either defend against the attack of the powerful master, or it can kill the master. It is worthy of being an 8th grade magic weapon. The only drawback to these killer weapons is that they are disposable items and are gone after use. Of course, this is also the price of great power. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji's eyes lit up. After searching for so long, he finally found what he wanted. So close to the end of the world, automatic defensive hidden weapon. When an enemy approaches, it will automatically deploy and take the enemy's life in a matter of seconds. Even a strong master can kill it instantly. 1 foot of space is eternity. Compared with other powerful hidden weapons, the end of the world does not require true energy stimulation. Even ordinary people who have not learned martial arts can use it, which is just right for Su Weiner. That's it, I want it. Xiao Wuji pointed to the book The End of the World on the book. The old man guarding the pavilion looked up and said a little depressed, the end of the world is at number 36A, you can go and get it yourself. I remember, there are only 2 of them on the 8th floor. Thank you. Xiao Wuji put down the book, bowed his fists to the old man guarding the pavilion, and then walked to the wooden shelf number 36. There was a small wooden box on it. It was only the size of a woman's rouge box. It was very compact and could be carried around. After opening it, inside is an exquisite lotus ring. But the whole lotus ring is made of black iron fused hardware and extreme stone. Each lotus petal is a blade, indestructible and extremely sharp. Cutting a sword is like cutting tofu once launched, even a master will die instantly. It is indeed an 8th grade magic weapon. It is truly a work of art. The fact that such a dangerous weapon can be made so small and exquisite shows how skilled the craftsmen who made it are. It's just that the production method of survivor has been lost, and now there may be less than 10 survivor in total in the whole Zhou dynasty. This kind of treasure is also a sect-protecting treasure in many large sections. Only Xiao Wuji would be so willing to use it as an amulet for his fiancée. Closing the small wooden box, Xiao Wuji took Tianya to go to the elder to register. After the registration was completed, he went directly to the elder. He turned around and left, not wanting to stay for a second longer. Looking at Xiao Wuji's leaving figure, the elder who guarded the pavilion felt even more depressed. Xiao Wuji really left as soon as he said it, neatly. In the past, others would beg him for advice. But he dismissed it. Today, he wanted to give Xiao Wuji some advice, but Xiao Wuji dismissed it. If Xiao Wuji knew the thoughts of the elder guarding the pavilion, he would definitely laugh out loud. Just kidding, I am already at the peak of the Grand Master. Okay. I possess several peerless magic skills, each of which has been cultivated to the state of great perfection. What can you give me as a guide? Being able to guard the 8th floor of the secret arsenal proves that the old man guarding the pavilion must be a great master. But if there really is a fight, he is really not Xiao Wuji's opponent. It's not certain who will give advice. Humph, you ignorant boy, what's the use of a concealed weapon? Your own strength is the most important thing. A few words of advice from me are much more valuable than a concealment-breaking weapon. The old man guarding the pavilion secretly scolded Xiao Wuji for not knowing the goods, and he fell asleep in a depressed mood. At this moment, another Kinhu household came to register. This Kinhu household tried every means to get close to 0.8 from the elder guarding the pavilion. Please. He pointed out the ways of martial arts. But the elder who guarded the pavilion was fast asleep without raising his eyelids and didn't want to pay attention to him at all. That Kinhu wanted to cry without tears. Just now, the elder who guarded the pavilion had such a good attitude towards Xiao Wuji. He thought, if you have a chance, you can ask for advice. Now I know that only Xiao Wuji has a chance, and no one else has a chance. Damn it, why is the gap between people so big? The news of Xiao Wuji's promotion to deputy Kinhu soon spread throughout Bijinfuzi. Many Jinyi guards felt that it was expected. Although Xiao Wuji had little qualifications, his strength and merit were enough. On this day, Xiao Wuji received many overtures from hundreds of Jinyaiwei families, and several thousand families also came to befriend Xiao Wuji. Among them was Hong Zhenyi's, the Kinhu who fought Xiao Wuji last time. However, Xiao Wuji did not bear any grudge against Hong Zhenyi's. After all, he was also responsible, and the misunderstanding between the two was later resolved. Although Xiao Wuji was determined to retaliate, he was not narrow-minded. When he made friends with Kinhu colleagues, Xiao Wuji was also secretly paying attention to the news inside Bijin. The most important thing is Li Lin. I want to know if the news of Li Lin's death has spread. Unfortunately, Xiao Wuji didn't hear any news about Li Lin for the whole day. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 90. In fact, it's normal when you think about it. Li Lin is arrogant and domineering, and it's common for him to be absent from Dianmao. Even if he doesn't come to Bijin for a month, no one will care. He didn't show up today, so everyone just thought he missed work again. But what Xiao Wuji didn't know was that there was already a turmoil within the Li mansion. Ever since learning about the disappearance of the eldest young master Li Lin, the entire Li mansion has been in chaos. How about it? Have you found the young master? In the lobby of Li mansion, a majestic middle-aged man was yelling at several of his subordinates. He was Li Lin's father, the son of his chief assistant Li Wenbo, and Li Dingshan, the minister of the Ministry of Civil Affairs. We searched everywhere we should, but there was no trace of the young master. A subordinate knelt on the ground and replied tremblingly. You trash, you are all a bunch of trash. Do I support you to make a living? Go find it, let me find it all. Even if we turn Jinling City upside down, we still have to find the young master. If you can't find the young master, you will all die for me. Li Dingshan cursed, roared crazily, and kicked and beat him like an angry tiger. Looking at the furious Li Dingshan, several subordinates were trembling with fear, kowtowed and said yes, and then fled the hall in a panic. Yesterday evening, Li Lin went out. He never came back after that. Staying out at night was not a big deal at first, so Li Dingshan didn't take it to heart. However, by noon today, Li Lin had not come back, and no one came back to report. Usually Li Lin is nostalgic for the place of fireworks. At any rate, he would send a servant back to the Li mansion to report the news. Only this time was an exception. The result can be imagined. The people from the Li mansion rushed to the Li Yuan and saw that it had been blocked by the soldiers of the White Tiger Legion. The servant borrowed the help of Li. After asking about the name of the mansion, he learned about the relevant news and learned that there was a big battle in Li Yuan last night, in which a strong man with the level of a great master of swordsmanship was involved. The servant did not dare to stay for a moment, and quickly sent the news back to Li's mansion. But he did not panic, because he remembered that Li Lin was guarded by the poisonous king Old Monster Meng. With Old Monster Meng protecting Li Lin would not get into trouble so easily. Maybe the battle happened after Li Lin left the Li Yuan. So Li Dingshan sent someone to attack Li Lin again. They searched all the brothels and chew houses that Li Lin often went to, and also searched all his private houses outside. But unfortunately, nothing was found. Li Lin and Old Monster Meng could not find anyone alive or dead. Now Li Dingshan was really panicking. So he sent a large number of men to search the whole city. As time passed, Li Dingshan's heart became colder and colder, his face became more and more gloomy, and finally he fell into rage. At this time, how could he not understand that his son must be in danger? Otherwise, with the power of the Li family, if Li Lin was still alive, he would have been found long ago. Who is it? Who harmed Liner? Dare you kill my son, Li Dingshan? I can't spare him. When the murderer is found, I will definitely skin him and cut him into pieces. The furious Li Dingshan slapped his favorite jade tea table to pieces, and the roar resounded throughout the Li mansion. Yes, Li Dingshan also practiced martial arts, but his martial arts talent was not outstanding. After practicing for decades, he was only at the innate level. In the end, he relied on pills to barely break through to the early stage of master. The price was that he could no longer make any progress in martial arts in this life, and his true energy was mixed and mixed, making him the master with the lowest combat power. Innate peak geniuses from major sects can completely surpass him. Regarding Li Lin's death, Li Dingshan's first suspect was the Mobei Kisha. Because they were the targets Li Lin contacted last night, and the golden-faced Lion King among the 7 evils of Mobei was a great master of swordsmanship, which happened to match the information from the White Tiger Legion. Could it be that Liner had a conflict with Mobei Kisha last night, and Mobei Kisha killed Liner? Li Dingshan fell into deep thought, and the more he thought about it, the more likely it became. First of all, the 7 evils of Mobei are all lawless and vicious men who kill without blinking an eye. Secondly, they hate the Jianghu people who surrender to the powerful. If Li Lin is recruiting the 7 evils of Mobei, it is possible to anger the 7 Shas of Mobei by making rude remarks. And if 6 of the 7 Shas of Mobei attack at the same time, the Poison King, Old Monster Meng, will never be able to stop them. The result can be imagined. In addition, there is a possibility that the 7 evils of Mobei originally planned to kill Li Lin. Although the Iron Claw Flying Eagle died because of Xiao Wuji, part of the reason was due to Li Lin. If Li Lin had not sent the Iron Claw Flying Eagle to kill Xiao Wuji, Iron Claw Flying Eagle will not die. To be honest, Li Lin is the culprit who caused Iron Claw Flying Eagle to be killed. Therefore, it is not surprising that the 7 Shas of Mobei hate Li Lin and want to kill Li Lin. Perhaps from the beginning, the purpose of the Mobei Kisha coming to Jinling was not just to kill Xiao Wuji, but even Liner was their target. At this moment, Li Dingshan couldn't help but feel a little regretful. He regretted that he was too anxious and didn't understand the situation, so he sent Li Lin to recruit the 7 Shas of Mobei. When they met last night, it turned out to be eternal farewell. The white-haired man sent the black-haired man. As for the second suspect, of course it was Xiao Wuji and the protectors behind him. Of course, Li Dingshan didn't know that Xiao Wuji had no protectors behind him. He naturally thought that this was Xiao Wuji's revenge on Li Lin. Li Lin sent someone to assassinate Xiao Wuji, then Xiao Wuji, in turn, sent his Taoist protectors to assassinate Li Lin. Over the years, the Li family has made countless enemies, and secretly many people hope that the Li family will die. But this possibility is slim. It is not that Li Dingshan is arrogant, but he really looked down on those King Liu officials in the court. Those King Liu officials had no other means except to complain, slander, frame up, and beg the emperor to make the decision. Sending people to assassinate people, those King Liu can't do it. Not only does he not have the guts to do it, but he also doesn't have the ability. It's not that easy to find a strong master who can defeat the Poison King Meng. Li Dingshan's thinking was very clear, and he quickly identified the murderers on Mobei Kisha and Xiao Wuji. The former was the most likely, and the latter was not less likely. Don't worry, Liner, Dad will definitely avenge you. No matter who kills you, whether it is the 7 evils of Mobei or Xiao Wuji, Dad will cut their bodies into thousands of pieces to sacrifice your spirit in heaven. At this moment, Li Dingshan's eyes erupted with endless cold light, and there was a murderous aura in it, as cold as a poisonous snake. By just one glance, others would feel chills all over their bodies, and the hairs on their bodies would stand on end. The hatred of killing a son is irreconcilable, it must be washed with blood. But at this moment, rapid footsteps sounded, and an old man with white hair and beard walked into the lobby surrounded by several guards. The old man looked a little embarrassed, his hair was disheveled, and his breathing was rapid. Seeing this old man, Li Dingshan stood up quickly, looking a little panicked. "Dad, why are you back?" Li Dingshan shouted guiltily. Yes, this old man with white hair and beard is clearly the chief minister of the current dynasty, Li Wenbo, a traitor known to the world. Nonsense, why do you think I came back? Li Wenbo's tiger body trembled, and he cursed and roared like thunder. Although he is old, he is still very energetic. If I don't come back, the Li family will collapse. Look, I've only been out for a few months, and something like this happened. How can you trust me to leave the Li family to you? Ah. Li Wenbo has not been in Jinling recently. He has gone out to search for elixirs of heaven and earth for Emperor Jingtai. Li Wenbo gained favor by flattering his superiors, so wholeheartedly pleasing the emperor is the way for the Li family to survive. Li Wenbo only needs one. When he was free, he would go out to search for elixirs for Emperor Jingtai to make elixirs for. This time was no exception. However, on the way back to Beijing, Li Wenbo received a summons from a dead man in his family and knew that something had happened to his eldest grandson Li Lin. Only then did he order his guards to take him back in a hurry. Along the way, Li Wenbo was brought back by the use of Qinggong by the Grand Master's guards. Li Wenbo's old bones were almost broken. When he returned to the door of Li's house, he almost breathed a sigh of relief. I can't breathe, that's why I'm so embarrassed. Tell me, what happened to Liner? What happened? Li Wenbo sat on the chair and finally took a breath. Although he knew something had happened in his family, he didn't think anyone really dared to kill his grandson. However, Li Dingshan's words were like a heavy hammer hitting his heart. He almost lost his temper. Liner may have encountered something unexpected. As soon as these words came out, Li Wenbo's eyes widened instantly, and his eyeballs suddenly turned red, and he stood up suddenly. What did you say? Tell me again. Dad, don't be anxious and take a breath. How dare your son tell you this? Seeing Li Wenbo panting like an ox, Li Dingshan was frightened. He quickly went up to comfort him and patted his back to help him calm down. It doesn't matter that Li Lin is dead, he is just a son. He has other sons. And he won't be born this year. At 50 years old, you can still live. The death of a son will not have any major impact on the Li family. But if Li Wenbo dies, the Li family's sky will fall. The reason why the Li family has today's power and status is all thanks to Li Wenbo gained the favor of Emperor Jingtai. Once Li Wenbo dies, everything owned by the Li family will disappear instantly. The huge Li family will collapse overnight. At that time, the Li family will be besieged by countless political enemies, and all 9 clans will be destroyed. Get out of my way and tell me. I won't die that easily. Li Wenbo pushed Li Dingshan away and roared angrily. Li Dingshan had no choice but to tell everything about the situation. Li Wenbo sat back on his chair, his face so gloomy that he could drip water. So, the most likely murderer is the 7 evils of Mobei and that despicable Jinyu Weihu. That's right, father. If you can't even deal with the waste of 100 households, what use are you to it? Li Wenbo yelled at Li Dingshan, spitting all over his face. Li Dingshan lowered his head and said nothing. He is over 40 years old and was scolded by Li Wenbo like a child. He did not dare to refute at all. The cause of everything is it started with Xiao Wuji. If Xiao Wuji could be killed from the beginning, there wouldn't be so many things later. I think the Li family, which is so powerful and powerful in the world, fell into the hands of a humble Jinyu Weihu. How can Li Wenbo endure it?